Wind off the Red Fork rolled through Riverrun's western battlements like a damp sigh, carrying the smell of mud stirred by autumn rains and the sharper tang of wet iron from the forge yard below. Catelyn Stark stood alone on the parapet, red gold hair unbound beneath a wolf-trimmed cloak, her fingers catching the drizzle as if to measure the riverlands by taste. Somewhere beyond the walls, the trampled fields of the camps shifted with torches and tents and wounded hopes. The war had ground every song her people once sang into coarse dust, yet the Tully banner still rippled above her, blue and mud-streaked, but unbroken. Beneath those banners Lord Edmure's victory against Ser Gregor was whispered of like a flame refusing rain, yet Catelyn heard only the wind-wrought laughter of the gods. Victories had grown thin as winter thistles. Hoster Tully lay dying in a tower chamber smelling of crushed mint and stale milk of the poppy. Robb, her firstborn king, marched in distant hills toward a throne more barbed than gilded. Sansa and Arya were fleeting rumors, as elusive as trout in a storm-swollen river. And Walder Frey, old, craven, necessary, waited in the crossing like a spider fat with grievance. In her dreams Catelyn still walked the curve of the twins' banquet hall, Robb's hand in hers, exchanging with Walder Frey a promise bound by bread and salt, woven with the brittle thread of her own dignity. She woke each dawn tasting ashes because she knew that thread would snap. Unless she wove something stronger, the drizzle thickened into honest rain. Catelyn drew her cloak tighter and turned from the parapet, boots echoing down stone stairs to the covered gallery that overlooked Riverrun's inner yard. Grooms trotted restless horses beneath an awning. Downriver barges unloaded casks of grain too precious for ale. Ser Brynden Blackfish drilled green boys in shield wall discipline, shouting until steam rose from their cloaks. Each sight added weight to the ledger in her mind. Grain measured against spear points, able arms balanced against the coming winter, promises weighed against the cost of broken oaths. A steward approached with parchment damp along the edges. "Lady Stark," he murmured, head bowed. "Lord Edmure asks that you attend him in the solar. Lord Frey's riders have reached the gate." So soon. She met the man's eyes, brown, tired, grateful for instruction he would never request aloud. "Tell my brother I shall come at once." The steward fled. Catelyn lingered a heartbeat in the gallery's half-light, listening to rain hammer slate. Guessed right, she thought, as if the words themselves might manifest a wall of smoke and iron between her children and the black pit opening beneath their feet. In the north, guessed right was thrice blessed. Southron hosts invoked it more freely yet honored it less. Freys did not forget slights, but neither would they publicly break the ancient laws, if those laws were nailed to their hearts with iron enough. A Riverrun pact. The Freys had nested inside Catelyn's skull for weeks, pecking at every doubt. A treaty signed not by kings but by the rivers themselves, carved into the bones of hospitality. If she could coax Frey, Tully, Bracken, Blackwood, Mal Lister, every proud petty lord who drew strength from the waterways, into swearing that no feast or betrothal in all the Riverlands could serve as cloak for murder, then even Walder's spite must bend. Break the pact, break himself. Let that be the bargain. Yet bargains made by soft hands were crushed by mailed fists, and Walder's fists were many. She thought of Roose Bolton's pale eyes studying Robb across a tent fire, thought of Lannister gold trickling through cracks unseen, thought of swords that glittered brighter than promises. The pact must be more than words. It must bear the weight of every honorable house left breathing. Weight requires mortar, asterisk her father once said when Tristane Blackwood haggled over bridge repairs. Mortar requires sacrifice. She pressed cold fingertips to her temple. What more can I trade? The list was short. Pride, titles, the ghosts of children she could no longer protect. But there was one thing left, herself. If price they want, price I offer. The solar smelled of damp vellum and wool. Edmure paced before a hearth where logs smoldered beneath an anemic flame, his auburn hair dark with sweat. Despite the drizzle, he wore brigandine half-laced, as though expecting battle to stride through the door disguised as petty politicking. "They bring 50 men," he grumbled without greeting. "Crossbowmen, no less. Wouldn't stable a single horse outside our yard. Damned insult. And Lord Frey's envoy refuses wet wine, will drink only from his own skins. He spun, arms flung wide. Tell me this isn't folly, Cat. It is necessity, she replied, unlatching her cloak. Walder's slights are tests. Pass them and he grants the next. Pass them and he conjures new ones. Edmure scrubbed a hand through his beard. Robb spurned 2 Frey girls, you recall. I've patched that wound with my own wedding vows, yet still he bleeds us. Catelyn folded wet wool across a chair and met her brother's ire with calm forged by nights of silent weeping. Then he must be shown a wound of his making, one that will haunt him should it fester. We offer him the Riverrun Pact. Edmure's pacing faltered. The what? She stepped to the map table where colored stones marked levies and food stores. A binding covenant among river lords. Frey as signatory, sworn before the Heart Tree and the Seven both, that guest right henceforth shall be inviolate. Any who spit upon bread and salt shall earn the wrath of all houses. Oathbreakers forfeit keep and kin. Her brother's brow furrowed, but curiosity cooled his temper. Bold, too bold perhaps. Walder profits by ambush and bride price. Strip him of that leverage and he must seek honor in plain sight, she finished. The crossing enriches him through tolls, not treachery. We remind him of that and pledge our spears to defend his rights, should some foe threaten the twins. In return, he pledges the safety of our king, our armies, our kin. It is fairness cloaked in flattery. Edmure chewed his lip. He will ask what stands between a promise and a sword at his throat. We offer hostages. Her voice did not waver, though her stomach clenched. Your unborn child, when he or she draws breath. And myself. Silence crashed like a drawbridge. Rain pelted leaded glass. The hearth snapped with spite. Edmure's eyes burned in their sockets. Our child? You. I am Robb's mother. Ned Stark's widow, Tully by blood yet wolf in name. My presence at the twins would bind Walder's better nature, such as it is. Much as Theon Greyjoy once stood in Winterfell to keep Balon honest. Balon betrayed the pledge. Edmure's voice broke. Theon turned cloak. The Starks paid in blood. Has Walder ever wasted a hostage? They are coins he hoards, not spends. She touched his arm. This buys us peace long enough for Robb to rally north and end this war on his terms. Edmure slumped. You risk too much. I risk what remains to me. Her smile was swords thin. Let me pay. Footsteps in the corridor saved him from reply. The door opened to admit Ser Brynden, black trout emblazoned on damp surcoat, rain glittering in his beard.
Edmure, Cat.
Freys' man waits. Calls himself Sir Ryman now. Walder's heir since Stevrin succumbed to Flux last moon. Another viper, Edmure muttered. The blackfish shrugged. Viper, yes. Old, whiskey-swollen, but still fanged. He surveyed Catelyn. You intend to face him?
Ido.
She squared her shoulders. Show me to him. The great hall of Riverrun had once been a place of revelry. Lutes strumming, platters steaming, the water wheel whirring beneath floorboards to power fountains of wine. Tonight the tapestries hung limp, torches shivering smoke across the rafters. At the high table Catelyn perched like a sentinel beside Edmure while Sir Ryman Frey gorged on river trout, grease glistening in his beard. His escorts lined either wall, drab in half-helm and chain, crossbow strings waxed. Catelyn noted every twitch, fingers drumming pewter, eyes darting to arched windows, boots angled for swift retreat. Freys never forgot the exit. Sir Ryman dabbed at his mouth. Lord Edmure, your chef's talent remains unmatched, though I confess the wine is less to my palate. We cellar Dornish Reds at the twins. Perhaps we'll gift a cask should the gods bless upcoming unions. His grin displayed missing teeth. Speaking of unions, His Grace King Robb's absence is felt. One hoped to behold the young wolf in all his valor. Edmure's jaw flexed. His Grace wages war in the west. Rivers run red, and Lannisters know naught of courtesy. Ah, courtesy. Ryman leaned back, patting his swollen belly. Which brings us to Frey courtesy, oft maligned, seldom appreciated. His gaze slid to Catelyn. Lady Stark, Your Lord Father's health? Failing, she answered, which hastens our need for binding agreements. Agreements, he echoed, savoring the syllables. Word is your king broke one, wed some comely westerling chit. Yet here you speak of binds. The wench is queen by right, Edmure growled. And her honor beyond your slander. Ryman raised palms. No slander, only a father's regret for opportunity lost. Still, Lord Walder bears no hatred, merely disappointment. The river flows on. It flows toward the sea, Catelyn said, but must first pass the Carrot twins' carrot. Her emphasis cracked like oars. We come offering a pact to strengthen that crossing, to make it fortress and sanctuary both. Ryman's eyes narrowed. Say on. Catelyn rose. Rain-battered stained glass, casting bruised colors on flagstones. The Riverrun Pact. All noble houses of the Trident to swear that guest right shall stand inviolable. Any host who sheds the blood of a guest protected by bread and salt forfeits lands and titles to the Pact's collective blade. Conversely, any guest who harms a host under that roof shall face identical doom. She paused, letting silence claim the hall before continuing. Break bread shall be stamped in wax upon each charter. Copies kept in every sept and godswood. Violate the laws, and every sworn house shall muster as one. A lone torch popped. Ryman's nostrils flared. Such zeal for courtesy. Yet courtesy is coin. What pays? Protection. Catelyn folded hands. We pledge to defend the twins against any force. Ironborn, Lannister, Wild Northmen. The Pact stands guard while the king guards realms. Fine words, but words float. He drummed sausage-thick fingers on the table. I taste no bitterness in them, hear no iron. Then hear this. Her voice dropped. Men leaned to catch it. I offer myself as surety, and when Lord Edmure's heir draws breath, the child shall dwell a season each year at the twins until manhood or womanhood. A fosterling as bridge of blood between our houses. A murmur rippled through Frey ranks. Even Edmure stared as if struck. Ryman's grin withered, replaced by sober calculation. Bold pledge indeed, yet Lord Walder despises charity. Hostages for peace may be weighed like gems, but he appraises their cut. He will find the cut flawless, Catelyn's spine a rod of northern ice. He will find that peace profits more than betrayal. Ryman swirled watered wine, eyes hooded. The crossing endures by selling passage, coin, flesh, marriage, victory. If passage be barred, folk build boats. If folk treat the twins as temple, who pays the ferryman? We do. Edmure's voice rang, surprising even himself. He rose beside Catelyn. Each house shall tithe wagons of grain and silver yearly to the twins, in gratitude for safe conduit. Enough to line coffers thicker than a dowry of daughters. He shot a swift glance at his sister. She inclined her head, an unspoken bargain sealed. Ryman barked laughter. A river of coin. A flood. He drained his cup. Yet floods drown fools who build too near the banks. Then build higher, Catelyn replied. The hall held its breath. Rain hammered. At length Ryman wiped wine from his mustache and pushed to his feet. I shall carry these terms to Lord Walder. He may spit, he may swallow, who can say? But rivermen have sweet tongues tonight. Perhaps they will sweeten his. He bowed, joints creaking. 1 week for reply. Should the gods grant safe roads? The Pact will grant safety, Catelyn said. Mayhaps. Ryman gestured, his men filed out. He lingered by the threshold. Lady Stark, valiant though you are, remember, guest right cuts both ways. Beware extending your own throat to sharpen another man's knife. He vanished into rain. Edmure slumped upon the high-back chair the moment they were alone. 7 save us, cat. Hostages, tithes, gods. Even father's last casks might not pay that river of silver. We shall pay in copper if need be. The hearth fires of the realm burn hotter than fool's gold if we live to feed them. She touched his shoulder. Rest, brother. Summon the Septon at dawn to draft the charter. Walder's quills will thirst for ink, and our maester's ravens for flight. He rubbed weary eyes. I fear the Blackfish will call me mad. Brynden swore to defend family, duty, honor. Help him remember which comes first. She offered a brittle smile and left him amidst tapestries of leaping trout. Corridors wound like arteries toward the upper tower. Lanterns guttered, casting ghost shadows. Catelyn climbed until her breath caught, pushing through oaken doors into her father's chamber. Hoster Tully lay upon pillows that smelled of damp wool and unseen rot. His cheeks had hollowed, beard streaked silver like frost on Riverstone. She knelt beside him, fingers brushing parchment-thin skin. His eyes fluttered open, cloudy, searching. Cat, little cat. The words rasped as though dredged from the Red Fork silt. I am here, father. She folded his hand in hers. I bring tidings. A pact to save our house, to shield our blood. Pact's words. His lips trembled. Words men bleed. Not if forged in faith, she whispered. I will stand hostage that faith may live. Hoster's gaze sharpened, as if winter sunlight lanced the fog. You child know. His fingers spasmed. Too much lost. Not lost, offered. For Rob, for the Riverlands. Tears pooled, unshed. For peace, he squeezed weakly. Peace, fragile thing. Cradle in claws. Breath rattled. Beware the song beneath silence. Wolves and trout may share stream, yet eels slither unseen. A cough racked him. Blood flecked his lip. Catelyn pressed a cloth to his mouth, heart hammering. Rest, father. He sagged, eyelids drooping, the fight ebbing once more. She watched his chest rise, a shallow tide, and felt the weight of every unborn choice pressing upon her. Bend the knee of hospitality. Nail guest right to the twins like a shield. Trade flesh for parchment. Trust Walder Frey. Peace, fragile thing. Dawn came raw and ragged, dragging mist across Riverrun's moat like torn cloth. Maester Ryman hunched over a cedar desk in the Sept's antechamber, quill scratching charter lines while Septon Osmond muttered prayers. Edmure signed with swollen knuckles. Ser Brynden added his mark under silent protest. Catelyn pressed her name last, the ink beating where her hand shook. 7 witnesses, Osmond intoned, sealing parchment with red wax stamped by salmon and direwolf intertwined. Let these words be as stone. Ravens would carry twin copies to Seaguard and the twins. Riders would bear others along the highways of the Trident. So messages flew. That eve, torches flared along Riverrun's docks as a covered barge bobbed beneath chains winched high. Catelyn descended the gangplank in plain cloak, escorted by half a dozen men under Blackfish command. Edmure embraced her fiercely at the water's edge. If Walder denies you safe guesting, row back by night, he whispered. Signal with 2 lanterns, one high, one low. I will break every gate in his cursed keep to reach you. She laid a hand upon his cheek. He will not deny me. The gods are watching. The gods watched when father took to his bed. His voice cracked. They did nothing. They watch still, she murmured. Let us do something in their stead. A horn sounded, oars dipped, Riverrun's walls receded, torch glow dwindling to embers. Mist swallowed sound until only the creak of timbers remained. Catelyn sat beneath a canvas awning, cloak wrapped tight, eyes on shadowed banks sliding past like mourners. Somewhere stars glittered, but clouds veiled their witness. She opened a small wooden box resting on her lap. Inside, bread baked that morn and a twist of coarse salt. The river lapped hull planks. She pinched a grain of salt, pressed it to her tongue, then broke bread in silent vow. Let no roof shelter murder this night or any night to come. Asterisk. The vow tasted of tears and rain-soaked grain. At the twins, candles guttered in wall sconces while ravens dozed above battlements. Walder Frey, thin as famine, eyes bright as dried blood, sat in his audience chair, bleached weirwood walking stick across bony knees. Ryman kneeled before him, scroll in hand. Walder's laugh came like bones clacking in a copper pot. Hostages, tithes, parchment miracles. And Lady Catelyn herself sailing up my moat. He spat phlegm. Old fish spawn bold fry in their dotage. Ryman risked a glance. Bold, yes. Profitable, perhaps. Perhaps. Walder tapped stick upon stone. The North broke pact already. The pup weds a Southron sow. Too proud to honor my lily-faced girls. Now mother offers her own leash? Ha! Spittle gleamed. Yet leash may tether king. He stroked greasy chin. Guessed right a hollow rattle, but make it song and fools will dance. He rose with effort, joints cracking. Send riders. Summon every Frey broodmare and bastard I can stand. We host Lady Catelyn with gold-tipped courtesy. We smile, we sip, we sign. His grin bared crooked teeth. And behind the smile we weigh the worth of chains. Ryman bowed. As you command. Walder shuffled toward his bedchamber. Fetch my best leeches. Blood must flow free tonight. The gods will have their share. He paused, gaze simmering like rancid broth. Tell cook to prepare dove pie. Lady Stark fancies peace. Let her swallow bones. The stick resumed its tap, tap, tap upon flagstones as Lord Walder Frey retreated into darkness. Schemes coiling about him like leeches fattened on power. Outside, thunder rolled low over the crossing. Herald to a storm neither wolf nor trout yet understood. On the river, lightning split black sky, and Catelyn Stark watched its silver flash illuminate the towers ahead, twin fangs biting clouds. She felt the future hinge upon that jagged light, felt the fragile cradle her father named sway upon currents swollen by blood and rain. She breathed once, twice, steadied the tremor in her heart. 5 hours, 5 days, 5 lives, whatever price, asterisk she vowed to the storm. So long as those I love may see sunrise untouched by treachery. The barge glided on, carrying hope wrapped in wolfskin toward gates that had never known mercy, and now must learn its weight. Sequel. Dawn's shroud of mist clung to the red and the narrow windows like pitted eyes, then the bridge span arching over the current. Iron braziers burned at the gatehouse, copper sparks swirling up into the wet air where roosting ravens shifted and croaked, uneasy companions to the coming bargain. Sir Desmond Grell stood at the prow, mail hood damp, a crimson trout on his tabard gone near brown with river spray. He raised a hand to hail the guards on the battlement, but Catelyn caught his wrist and shook her head. Let them speak first. Let them taste the hush that rode with her, a hush pregnant with parchment and hostage and the oldest law men knew. So they drifted on, silent but for the creak of leather and the splash of oars. A portcullis rattled upward by grudging inches. Catelyn felt eyes line the murder holes. She imagined crossbows nested in gloom, quarrels already touched with oil to ease them down the slot. Yet the hush endured, and soon rope lines were tossed and caught. The barge kissed mossy pilings, and she stepped onto Frey stone. The yard beyond the water gate smelled of wet straw, horse sweat, and boiled turnip. A poor welcome but an honest one. Ryman Frey waited under a striped pavilion of faded blue and gray, rain dripping from the canvas peak onto his wide shoulders. He bowed stiffly, breath ghosting in the chill. Lady Stark, my lord grandsire bids you welcome and begs indulgence. The damp worsens his joints. His smile suggested that joints were not the only thing Lord Walder deemed worth preserving from the elements. Catelyn inclined her head. The river carried me swiftly, sire. I am pleased he opens his hall. Ryman's gaze flicked past her to the boat. Counting men, counting blades. Escort of 6? Modest. I come as guest, not captain, she answered, stepping forward. My escort will remain within the gatehouse till dusk. They have sworn the old words. Ryman's brow rose at that, but he said only, the bridge tower apartments are prepared for you. Fires lit, rushes fresh, a septon if you wish him. His lordship greets you at midday. At midday, then. She followed him across the muddy court while the twins rang about her. Smith's hammer, mule's bray, laughter from unseen windows, nervous, shrill. Children darted through archways trailing ribbons, pausing to gape at her cloak's dire wolf clasp. A northern sigil, she heard one murmur, sharp as teeth. Ryman never slowed. He led her up a corkscrew stair that smelled of damp wool. then along a gallery with arrow loops overlooking the river. The western tower's stones seemed to hold the chill. Torchlight glimmered on slimy patches where water seeped, and her soft-soled boots found purchase only by care. At last he swung open a door bound in iron. Beyond lay a modest solar, hearth blazing, a settle draped in lambskin, tapestries of fish and ospreys. A tray weighted with mulled wine, steam curling like a dragon's sigh. Ryman gestured. "Your rest, my lady. His lordship will send word." "I thank you." She studied his face, searching for cracks. Regret, resentment, calculation. She found only weariness, the brittle fatigue of a man juggling too many knives. When he left, she poured a cup, but the scent of cloves turned her stomach. She crossed to the narrow, arched window that overlooked the bridge's covered walk. From here she glimpsed the ward on the opposite bank, where the eastern tower loomed taller and more imposing. A rider in crimson cloak cantered there. Bolton read, she noted with a spurt of unease. Had Roose sent an envoy, or his bastard? Slither unseen, her father's warning echoed. Every eel seeks deeper water. She turned from the window, calm, poise, in an hour she must meet Walder. Bones, leeches and all, and make him believe the pact served him better than treachery. She began to pace, rehearsing the shape of her appeal like a prayer. Guest right is coin, Lord Walder. Spend it and you may buy a realm. Break it and none will trade with you. The words felt solid, but Walder valued weight of metal more than chime of phrase. So she imagined adding heavier proof. The grain caravans already assembling at Seaguard, the tithe barges Edmure would send come spring, the guarantee that Riverlords would guard his toll booths in every season. And myself, she reminded, resisting the quiver in her belly. My life the seal upon the parchment. A knock. She turned as a serving girl entered, flaxen hair clipped short. Maester Eamon Rivers sends tincture for the chill, milady. The girl held out a small glass vial stoppered with wax. Set it on the table, Catelyn said, noting the tremor in the child's hands. Fear of strangers or fear of Walder? Perhaps both. What is your name? Emiria, milady. Thank you, Miria. The girl bobbed and fled. Alone again, Catelyn watched the vial's dark liquid catch firelight. Was it tincture or test? She uncorked it, sniffed. Willow bark, honey, something sharper. Not poison. Maesters prized their oaths. Still, she poured a drop into the wine, waited for clouding or hiss. Nothing. She drank, wincing at bitterness. If Walder sought fear, let him learn her courage tasted of gall. Midday told in the thin clang of bronze bells. 2 Frey guards arrived clad in stiff gray surcoats, halberds gleaming. They escorted her down a flight of stairs into the covered bridge, wide enough for 2 wagons, its plank floor slick with river mist. Arrow slits punctured the walls at head height. She noted new shutters installed over many. In truth, the bridge was a keep unto itself, defensible even if both towers fell. Walder trusts stone and timber over honor. At the eastern parapet, a lattice door opened into Lord Walder's hall. She stepped into warmth and flickering yellow light. The room stretched long and low, rafters blackened by decades of soot. Benches flanked a central aisle strewn with rushes and sweetened with crushed mint, barely masking odors of grease, beer, and unwashed men. Platters of bread, cheese, and dried plum-lined trestles where Freykin loitered like vultures in furs. Their chatter died as she approached the dais. Lord Walder Frey sat enthroned upon a high-backed oaken chair carved with twin towers. Age had whittled him to sinew and spite. His spotted hands curled round a weirwood stick. His lips gnarled around words before they escaped. 2 young wives hovered nearby, slender girls in sky blue and rose, while a leech jar perched on a side table, blood-fat worms squirming slow. Catelyn climbed the dais steps alone. She stopped 3 paces off, bowed. Lord Walder, I thank you for your mercy in hosting me. Mercy? His voice rasped, half laugh, half wheeze. A guest is no burden if she brings her own leash. Come nearer, girl, my eyes fail. Girl. She forced a smile, advanced a single stride. He peered. Still comely for widowhood. Good bones. Ah, bones, mine ache like 7 hells frozen over. Seat. He pointed his cane at a stool low and hard. She seated herself, cloak pooling round boots. We have talk, Walder said. This pact your ravens screech about. Riverrun has lofty notions. Guessed right in violet eye. He hawked, spat into a cup one wife offered. Tell me, Lady Stark, what's to stop a guest from carving throats once the bread's digested? Should I trust crusts over guards? The pact stops them, she answered. It's wrath if they betray you. It's swords if they flee. Their own fear of losing all they own. Fear. He sucked a tooth. Men fear only what stands before them. Then see what stands. She drew a folded parchment from her sleeve. Wax cracked as she opened it. Tully, Mallister, Blackwood, Bracken, Piper, Vance. Dozens of seals in crimson and green. Every riverlord whose hall withstands the Lannister tide has signed. More will follow when word spreads. Lord Walder, break bread with me and the pact becomes stone. He eyed the parchment, nostrils twitching at the whiff of power. Stone crumbles, he muttered, but tolls endure. So endure them richer. She kept her tone even. A tithe of silver each year from every signer, delivered at midsummer when trade runs thickest. Enough to raise new towers, pay new levies, fatten new purses. Enough! His mouth split thin as paper. There is never enough. But more has flavor. He dabbed his tongue over cracked lips. Your hostage pledge sweetens soup. How long shall you visit? Until Rob's throne is secure and the realm at peace. Peace, he mocked. I've buried 6 sons seeking peace. Never found a clod of it worth the coffin. Yet his eyes glittered at her boldness. I will weigh. He rapped cane twice. Bread and salt. 2 servants hurried forward bearing trays. A loaf split, a silver dish of fine white grains. Walder lifted a crust, dipped it to the salt. He held it aloft but did not eat. Guessed right? He croaked loudly for all to hear. By river, 7 and stranger's piss. This roof shall shelter none who would harm. Eat, Lady Stark. She broke a smaller piece, dabbed it to salt, swallowed. The hall released a collective breath. Walder's own bite followed, thin gums working bread to paste. There, he said, licking crumbs. Now my servants will escort you to supper quarters. At dusk I shall send Ryman with my reply. She bowed again, retreating down steps as watchers whispered. Guest right invoked, but not yet enshrined. Parchment must meet quill. Supper proved a meager affair in comparison to rumor of Walder's feasts. Barley stew, roasted carp, turnips stewed in milk. Catelyn ate sparingly beneath the watch of 2 Frey daughters, Valda the Fat and Marianne of the Twitch, who giggled behind calloused hands and stared at her hair as though it might bite. When she retired, the same guards shadowed her steps, polite but silent. Back in her chamber she found fresh logs blazing, a blanket of soft rabbit fur spread on the settle. Yet cold seeped from walls. She could not shake it. She slept in fits, dreamt of chains forged from bread crusts, snapping at the first drop of blood. A rap roused her near midnight. She rose, knife hidden in sleeve. The door opened on Ryman Frey, lantern in hand. My lady, forgive the hour. Lord Walder commands your presence. Commands? Asterisk, she braided composure about her heart. Lead, sire. They descended a spiral seldom used, torch niches cold. At its base, a postern opened onto the bridge walk, deserted now save gusts of wind. They crossed halfway, then took another stair down within the span's belly. A place of buttressed ribs, wagon rut grooves, smell of old pitch. Shadows swung in the lantern's wake, revealing narrow cells along one wall, holding rooms for toll evaders or quarrelsome merchants. Ryman halted before a door banded in brass. His lordship awaits. He handed her the lantern and stepped aside. She inhaled, lifted the latch and entered. A single brazier glowed inside, casting coppery light upon Walder Frey seated behind a trestle. Beside him perched a thin man in maester's gray, chain-glinting parchment spread. Walder gestured with his stick. "Words in darkness," he rasped. "Travel faster than crows." "Seat." She obeyed, noting that the maester, Eamon Rivers, she guessed, kept cool poised but eyes wary. "Your reply, Lord Walder?" He tapped parchment. "I will sign your Riverrun pact, clause for clause. Guest right, tithes, hostages." A grin like a wound opened. "On one condition." "Name it." "A match." He stabbed Cain at her. "Your daughter Arya weds my young heir Elmar. Stark blood in Frey cradle. City folk call him simpering, but I call him second in line. When Ryman drinks himself dead, Elmar shall rule the crossing." Arya, the wolf girl lost between rumors, 8 years old when last she'd been glimpsed. Sansa hostage in King's Landing, Bran and Rickon murdered, so said the ravens. Robb at war, only Arya unclaimed, unyoked. Promise her and the pact stands. "My daughter's fate is hers and her king's to forge," Catelyn said carefully. "But the king is my son, and I carry his voice. He will weigh the match." Walder bared teeth. "Weigh less, pledge more." "I will pledge to place the match before him and speak for its merit," she offered. "A betrothal contingent on Arya's safe return, on your honor to treat her as your own until the wedding. All sealed in the pact." Walder considered, eyes slitting. "Fine. Contingent. Bah. Girls sprout like weeds. Plenty more if one wilts." "Very well." He beckoned the maester. "Right." Quill scratched. Wax melted. Catelyn added her name again, this time below Walder's crooked scrawl. The maester sanded the sheet, rolled it, tied white ribbon. Walder gripped her wrist as she reached for it. "Guessed right shields, yet you stand in my hall as coin. Debt paid, debt owed. Keep that in mind." His grip was brittle but fierce. She freed herself gently, bowed, left. 3 days passed in brittle peace. Catelyn walked the battlements, spoke with Miria and other servant girls, learned which Frey sons plotted dice in the store larder and which wives whispered of escape. She wrote letters on borrowed vellum, to Edmure reporting progress, to Robb advising caution and urging acceptance of the Arya-Elmar betrothal, to Brynden instructing quiet musters near the Green Fork. Ravens flew, and she prayed their wings outpaced Lannister gold. On the 4th dawn, a courier boat arrived from Seaguard bearing Lord Jason Mallister's seal. The tithe wagons had departed, 200 ox carts laden with silver plate and salted fish. A token show, yet enough to tempt Walder's avarice. She brought word to his solar, finding him swaddled in furs, leeches drinking behind his knees. "Good," he croaked. "Good." He dismissed her with twitch of his stick. But that night he hosted a feast of roasted capon and almond bread, seating her at his right. Toasts rang, to the Riverrun Pact, to peace on the Trident, to young Elmar's prospective bride. Harpists played, jugglers tossed knives. Ryman bellowed bawdy songs while half the hall stumbled on wine. Catelyn drank sparingly, amused to see even Walder's sharp tongue softened by Mallister vintages. Yet she watched every pitcher pour, just as Roose Bolton watched from the far trestle, pale eyes hooded. His sudden presence troubled her. He had ridden in that afternoon with 20 Dreadfort armsmen, cloaks spotted with flayed man sigils. When the feast wound down, Bolton approached, bowing. "Lady Stark, an unexpected honor." His voice held chill as frosted glass. "Lord Bolton." She met his gaze. "You ride far from Harrenhal. A lord must roam where duty beckons. I come seeking safe passage for my men by river, and perhaps a glimpse of our noble hostess." He smiled thinly. "Guest right is rare coin these days." "Rarer than honor," she replied. He dipped his head. "Indeed." Turning, he vanished through swinging doors, silent as winter's breath. Another week, and riders returned from Riverrun with word. Edmure had accepted the pact publicly before the Blackwood Weirwood. The Mallisters and Brackens had sent pledges of caravans. Even the Fry-Bracken feud cooled, at least on parchment. Walder's cups brimmed nightly. The twins buzzed with talk of toll hikes, new markets, and marriages springing from the fresh alliance. Catelyn sensed a fragile shift. suspicion giving way to ambition, ambition to grudging hope. She spent mornings in the rookery with Maester Eamon Rivers, drafting duplicates of the Pact. The Maester, base-born but learned, spoke softly. "Lady Stark, I served at the Citadel with Maester Luwin of Winterfell. He praised your courage often. I see now it was no idle talk." She thanked him, though courage felt heavy as chainmail. Each fresh scroll tethered her further to Walder's mercy. Yet she remembered Robb's birth in Riverrun's East Tower. How she had labored 22 hours, muscles aflame, refusing milk of the poppy so she could greet her son clear-eyed. Pain then had forged love. Pain now must forge peace. That afternoon Walder summoned her to a secluded sept where colored glass painted saints upon the floor. He hobbled near the altar, wives hovering like nervous doves. "The toll wagons approach," he told her, voice thick with triumph. "Your pact breeds bounty. You are welcome guest in my hall." He offered a skeletal hand. She clasped it. "May bounty breed gratitude." "Gratitude," he echoed. "A dangerous weed. Must prune." Yet he gestured to a carved seat at the altar rail. "Sit. Hear a tale." She humored him. He spoke of his youth, of crossing swords with Blackwoods, of betting his first wife in a barn because his father would not waste coin on feast hall candles. "Coin tightens hearts," he said, "but fear tightens more. Now the realm fears to break bread with Frey." He tapped her wrist. "You loosen that fear. I must keep you." "Keep me? Here." He wheezed a laugh. "For counsel. For example. My duty is to Riverrun. Your duty split, girl. Pact binds. Stay." She felt blood drum in her ears. "When the wagons arrive, I will oversee distribution, then return to Riverrun. A hostage delivered is a hostage balanced. Should not tip the scales." Her words calm, her heart racing. Walder's eyes hardened like river ice. "Soon, perhaps. Not yet." He released her. "Go rest." That night thunderheads massed westward. Catelyn stood on balcony watching sheet lightning crawl along horizon. Frey archers muttered of omens. Stable boys prayed the river not flood. She prayed too. Prayed that Robb marched swift, that Edmure guarded Moat Cailin, that Arya still breathed. She prayed that Walder's promise held. A soft step behind. She spun, hand on dagger. Roose Bolton stood half-shrouded in shadow, pale eyes luminous. "My lord," she greeted. "The hour grows late. Storms keep me wakeful," he said. "May I?" He joined her at the balustrade without waiting. Fine view. The bridge seems frail until one watches water rage beneath. Strength often hides in spans, not towers. "Wise," she said warily. He folded gloved hands. "I heard today you convinced Lord Walder to endorse this pact. Remarkable feat, considering his nature." "Necessity," she replied. "Of course." Lightning flashed, revealing Bolton's slight smile. "I caution you, Lady Stark. Nature rebels against shackles. Guessed right is a shackle. Some wrists chafe until they bleed. Better bleeding wrists than severed throats." Bolton inclined his head. "True. Yet throats may open for reasons beyond betrayal. Hunger, rage, despair." He turned, cloak whispering. "See that your pact feeds more than it binds." With that he departed. She exhaled, fingers sore where they gripped stone. The thunder rolled closer, drowning doubts only for a breath before hurling them back. Morning delivered the tithe wagons, a serpent of canvas-topped carts rumbling across the causeway under Mal-Lister banners. Hundreds of chests clinked within, silver cups, iron bars, sacks of coin. Walder greeted them at the gate with greedy eyes, but he played the gracious host, commanding casks of ale broached for the teamsters. Catelyn oversaw accounting. Scribes chalked each chest. Frey Reeves stored them in an underbridge vault barred by twin iron grates. She double-checked every tally, mindful of hidden losses. 3 days the wagons unloaded. On the 4th dawn came riders, black-armored scouts from Roose Bolt. On, bearing tidings that Lannister outriders probed the roads beyond Pink Maiden. Walder fretted, but the pact required river lords to defend the crossing. He dispatched 100 spears under Sir Frey. Bolton sent 50 Dreadfort men. Guest Wright forged a spearhead, sealed not with blood but with ink. And so a rhythm settled. Scrolls flying, wagons arriving, troops drilling. Catelyn spent evenings in council with Walder scribes, shaping bylaws, mapping duties. She dined beside Frey daughters, coaxing their gossip into intelligence. She walked parapets with Grey Pate, the oldest Frey grandson, who lamented the decay of honor among younger kin. Each small ally hammered one more rivet into the bridge she built. Yet each night she dreamed of a feast hall lit by torches of human bone, minstrels strumming entrails, bread dripping red. She awoke bathed in sweat, clutching her wolf clasp like a talisman. Full moon rose over leaf-bare willows when a raven arrived from Robb Stark's host near Fairmarket. The young king accepted the Arya betrothal provisionally, praising his mother's wisdom, urging haste retrieving Arya from wherever she hid. He pledged to ratify the pact in the northern name and promised 12 wagon loads of furs and timber to the Freys before the first snows. Catelyn read the letter thrice, heart soaring and sinking in turns. Arya still unseen, furs across war-torn roads, Lannister armies regrouping at Harrenhal. But promise lived, and promise must be enough. Walder paraded the letter before his court, giddy as a youth. He declared a day of markets, lowered tolls to half-rate for traders bringing winter stores. Coin poured in. He summoned Catelyn to stand at his side as he proclaimed the twins the safest hearth in Westeros. Applause thundered. She felt the bridge beneath her feet steady, as though masonry learned courage. That evening she found a gift outside her chamber, a necklace of river pearls interwoven with tiny wolf heads in silver. No note, but she knew Walder's vanity sought return. She left it on the table untouched. Winter's breath crept sooner in river country. Frost-limbed ramparts, barges iced at moorings overnight. Still no word of Arya, no sign of Robb or Edmure arriving. Walder grew restless, counting treasures nightly, snapping at servants. Ryman drank deeper, and quarrels flared between Frey cousins over prospective shares of toll profit. Catelyn mediated twice, citing Pact strictures. She feared if Freys killed Freys, the veneer of honor would crack. One dawn, Miria the serving girl brought news in whispers. A letter from King's Landing had reached Lord Walder by secret rider. Sealed with a lion, Miria said, eyes huge. Catelyn stiffened. Lions meant Cersei or Tywin, poisoned coins hidden in velvet. Walder locked himself with Ryman and the maester for hours. That night, during supper, Walder announced he would travel to the Eastern Tower for prayer. A simple statement, yet his wives stiffened. Catelyn's skin prickled. After the meal, she sought Ryman, found him staggering drunk in the buttery, weeping into a flagon. "Lion claws," he sobbed. "They'll flay us." He shoved her away, fled. Alarm bells rang in her mind. She hurried to Maester Aemon's chambers, but guards barred entry, orders from Lord Walder. Thunder muttered outside, though skies were clear. She felt river mud sucking at her boots, though she stood on stone. Something shifts. She spent the night pacing, mind racing. Had Tywin offered gold? A title? Cersei a queenship for a Frey child? Walder's greed might outweigh fear, yet guest right still bound him, and the pact threatened ruin if he broke it so soon. But ruin tomorrow may weigh less than gold tonight. At dawn, horns crowed. Roose Bolton rode out with his men, eastward along the Green Fork. Catelyn stood on the bridge parapet watching their banners recede. Bolton looked up once, meeting her eyes across distance, and touched 2 fingers to his brow. A gesture half salute, half farewell. She shivered. 2 hours later, a boy in livery of house piper galloped through the gate bearing crimson banner trimmed white, a parley flag. Catelyn hurried to the yard where Walder, Ryman, and half the household assembled. The boy dismounted, produced a folded letter. Walder ripped it open. His scowl dissolved, replaced by stunned rage. "Piper refuses tithe delivery," he snarled. "Claims bandits stalk the roads. Demands escort of 100 twin spears." He crumpled parchment. "Blackmail." Catelyn stepped forward. Lords must protect roads, else the Pact Freys. Send escort. Their wagons feed your coffers. Walder glared. My coffers feed their hunger. Already I bled coin building this pact. Now they skimp. He rounded on her. Lady Stark, your pact wobbles. Then strengthen it, she said, voice steel. Send escort. Send 200. Show the realm Frey honor stands sentinel. He sneered but gestured for Ser Hosteen. Fine. Ride at first light. The boy bowed. Fled. Walder stormed away. As dusk fell, Catelyn penned urgent letters. To Lord Piper urging haste, to Edmure demanding patrols, to Robb requesting additional outriders near the crossroads. Ravens took wing into the cold sky. She prayed the wings did not return tattered. A fortnight later, the Piper wagons reached the twins under heavy guard. Riddled with arrow holes, half the oxen lame. Bandits indeed. Walder counted every chest thrice, berating Piper greed. Catelyn bit her tongue. Yet she noted Ryman's haunted eyes, Hosteen's wounded men who swore the bandits fought with Lannister-forged axes. Spies among us. She ordered Reeves to double rations for escort survivors. That won her cheers, but Walder scowled deeper. The next morning he confronted her in the gallery above the yard. This pact bleeds my men, he hissed. I pay escorts, I feed freeloaders, and my reward? Ragged wagons, paltry silver. And safety, she said. No host or guest slain in these walls. Your shadow across the trident grows long.
Shadows feed no bellies.
Nor does betrayal, she retorted. Break the pact and every signed house will march to claim the twins. The crossing must stand on trust. Walder's stick thudded stone. Trust melts. Gold hardens. He limped away. That evening thunderclouds gathered again. Catelyn sat at her desk drafting yet another circular urging riverlords to maintain road watches. A knock, in came Miria, eyes wide. Milady, come. Something in the vault. She followed the girl down lamplit stairs beneath the bridge. The first iron grate stood open, guards absent. Within, chests lay scattered, lids smashed. Silver spilled like moonlight on dirt. And scrawled across the stone wall in ash read a single word. Guest asterisk. Her pulse hammered. She spun. No sign of thieves. Miria trembled. Catelyn ushered her back up. Locked the grate. Someone inside Walder's own ranks had staged theft or message. Silver could be replaced, but meaning? Whoever wrote that word mocked the pact, dared Walder to break right. She reported to Ryman, who turned pale, then to Walder, who roared and summoned every reeve, every guard. Find the culprit, he bellowed. Hang them by dawn. Yet suspicion already gnawed. Brothers eyed brothers, sisters whispered. Catelyn demanded an inquiry led by Maester Aemon, impartial and learned. Walder agreed grudgingly, but rumor spread faster than justice. Some claimed the thief a Blackwood spy. Others swore Bolton's men lingered in the shadows still. The vault door was rebarred, iron welded, cymbal trumping sense. That night Catelyn again dreamed of the bone-lit feast. This time the bread on the table bore the word guest burnt dark into the crust. When she woke, she tasted ash. The wheel of days turned, scraping sparks. Snowflakes mingled with rain. Roads turned to mire. Edmure's ravens promised winter stores, but weather delayed their carts. Frey larders dwindled, even with tithes. Walder muttered of ration cuts. Ryman warned him men already stole oats. Catelyn suggested opening fairs to sell Frey toll exemptions for grain. Walder scoffed, until Ryman persuaded him toll tokens could be minted at copper cost then sold at silver. He relented. Fairs opened. Grain trickled in. The bridge breathed again. In early frost month, a raven arrived bearing the wolf banner of Robb Stark. The king himself rode for Riverrun, wintering forces along the Trident, planning spring campaign south. He would reach the twins in 3 weeks. Walder's reaction was ambivalent. Fear of feeding thousands. Thrill of hosting a king under his roof. Catelyn seized the chance. The king shall ratify the pact in person. Display our unity to every bannerman. Walder agreed, though his eyes glittered strange. Preparations began. Cooks salted casks of carp, hunted boar, masons patched cracks, tapestries beaten, arrows fletched. Catelyn oversaw every detail, determined nothing mar the king's safety. She posted guards she trusted, Black Pate, Jory Mallister, and insisted on nightly inspections of vault and gatehouse. Walder sneered but yielded. Yet beneath bustle she sensed tremors. Fry cousins disappearing on business. Merchant wagons arriving after dark. Bolton riders glimpsed prowling North Bank. She kept lists cross-checking names. Too many moving pieces. 10 days before Robb's arrival, Maester Aemon sought her. Lady Stark, grain ledgers showed discrepancies. 2 wagons unaccounted from the Piper tithe. Reeve claims mistallied. I suspect theft. She ordered investigation. That night, Reeve Matthew vanished. 2 guards with him. Walder raged. Had 3 hostlers flogged, though guilt unproved. Panic bred brutality. Brutality bred panic. She pleaded calm, but Walder's temper rose with the river's flood. 5 days before Robb was due, a snowstorm descended, white veil smothering watchfires. Catelyn paced the bridge corridor, hearing ice crackle on shutters. Then a horn. She raced to western parapet. Through swirling white emerged riders waving direwolf banners. Not Robb, an advance party. Sir Reynold Westerling, Sir Robin Flint, and Grey Wind himself loping ahead, pelt dusted by snow. Catelyn's heart leapt as the direwolf bounded across the drawbridge, snarling at Fry guards until she called his name. He trotted to her, whining, nuzzling her palm. She scratched him, tears warming eyes. When Reynold dismounted, he pressed a sealed missive into her hand. His Grace sends greetings and warns of Lannister raiding columns near Derry. He asks the twins grant shelter to refugees trailing his host. Of course, she said, though shelter cost food. Still, the pact promised safety to the weak as well as strong. She reported to Walder, who grumbled but consented when she offered to deduct extra rations from northern tithe. Refugees arrived bedraggled. Farmers, crofters, children shivering in patched cloaks. Catelyn opened the unused granary in the East Tower to house them, set healers on fevers, assigned cooks watery stew. Among the weary she found a girl of 10 with tangled brown hair and gray eyes too sharp for her age. For a heartbeat her breath stopped. Arya? But no, the nose wrong, chin softer. She embraced the child anyway, placed bread in her hand, and murmured a prayer. That night Walder summoned her again, voice dripping ice. These beggars gnaw my stocks. Your pact bleeds me further. They will return to holdings come thaw, she said. Their debt repaid by fieldwork. He snorted. Snow may never melt. Then who pays? Honor, she answered, and the gratitude of a king. Walder's cane rapped once. Pray gratitude fills bellies. Pray hard. 2 days before Robb's host, the storm cleared. Sunlight glared off frozen river. Scouts sighted the king's van 20 leagues south. Catelyn supervised hanging of banners. Direwolf beside twin towers, Trout beside cross tower keys. Musicians rehearsed, but dread coiled beneath her ribs like winter viper. Too many omens. Silver theft, guest scrawl, lion's letter. She visited the vault alone, torch in hand. Snowmelt seeped under door, no tracks but her own. Chests intact, yet she noted new tool marks on hinges, as though someone tested them. She touched the word guest, black ash still flaking. With a rag she wiped it clean. Voice steady, she whispered, no more. That evening Ryman found her on battlements. Wind cut his cheeks ruddy. Father frets, he said. He fears Lannisters ride with the king cloaked in northern hues. Robb chooses his guard, she replied. He will not permit foes inside walls. Walls fail, Ryman muttered. Blood seeps. He splayed meaty hands. I tried Lady Stark. 7 witness. But he hears whispers. What whispers? Ryman stared into snow-glimmered night. That the pact strangles us. That the River Lords plot to seize the crossing once Winter Seal's roads. That you mean to turn Walder's own brood against him. He met her gaze, fear stark. They say the wolf devours trout, then turns on bridge. Lies, she said flat. We bridge divides. Bridges fall, he repeated miserably, and walked away. The eve of Robb's arrival dawned crisp, sky clear. Catelyn roused early, overseeing kitchen fires, checking guard rotations. She ordered every cask of wine tested for taint, every morsel tasted by Walder's own cupbearers, every bowstring inspected. Walder called her fussing. She persisted. Near noon, horns sounded from the south. The king's host wound along the river road. Banners of gray direwolves, black fish, green leaves, golden sunbursts. Manderley, Glover, Karstark. Drums rumbled. Hooves shook frost. Robb rode at their head, tall and mail gilded by pale sun, cloak of gray and white swirling. Beside him rode Queen Jane Westerling, cheeks pink with cold. Behind loped gray wind, tongue lolling. Catelyn descended to yard as the drawbridge lowered. Robb dismounted, swept her into embrace. Tears froze on her lashes. "Mother," he whispered, "the gods watch us. Let them witness triumph," she replied, though triumph felt fragile as hoarfrost on steel. Walder greeted the king with flourish, wheezing contrition for broken betrothals, praising the queen's beauty. Robb bowed, gracious. Bread and salt exchanged, guest right renewed. The feast commenced at dusk. A riot of torches, lutes, roasted boar swimming in honeyed ale. Bards sang of the Pact while Frey daughters paraded trays of almond cakes. Catelyn sat between Robb and Walder, heart pounding at each toast. Yet all seemed smooth. No wine soured, no quarrel flared. Gray wind prowled beneath trestles, sniffing legs. Guards kept distance. Mid-feast, Walder rose, tapping cane. "To the Riverrun Pact," he croaked. "To peace." Cups raised, cheers echoed. Robb replied in kind, praising Frey hospitality. Music swelled, couples danced. The hall pulsed with life, but as Catelyn lifted her cup, she caught movement. Maester Aemon slipping through side door, face pale. She followed discreetly, weaving past laughing soldiers. Down corridor, up stair, to an antechamber where Aemon waited, clutching scroll. "My lady," he whispered, voice shaking. "Raven from Harrenhal urgent. I feared to deliver in hall." He handed parchment, wax unbroken. She broke it, scanning lines. "To Lady Stark at the Twins urgent. Lannister host under Ser Forley Prester marches north on the eastern bank, 4,000 strong, intent to seize the crossing before snow deepens. They carry siege ladders, expect to arrive within 10 days. Bolton scouts confirm. Hold the bridge at all costs. Miege Mormont, asterisk, blood drained from her face. 10 days. Robb's army within walls, but wagons, horses, followers overflowed yards. Prester's host could cut them off, trap them against Winter River. The Pact would be tested in fire. She steadied. "Thank you, Maester. We must bring this to the king at once," but quietly. She tucked scroll inside cloak. They returned to hall. Robb danced with little Cybele Frey, laughter bright. Walder watched, eyes glinting. Catelyn approached her son, touched his sleeve. He read her gaze, excused himself, followed her to dais corner. She pressed scroll into his hand. He read, jaw tightening. "We must depart at dawn," he whispered. "Clear the yards, march south. Meet them before they reach Derry. Or fortify here," she whispered back. "Let them break against Frey stone and trident ice." He glanced at Walder, who toasted merrily with Bolton's steward. Would he hold? He must. Pact binds him. Robb's eyes darkened. Bolton's here scouting. He knew. Perhaps. But now we act. She squeezed his arm. "Speak with Lord Walder at feast's end. Secure his oath." Robb nodded, returned to dance. Catelyn resumed seat, mind racing. 10 days. Enough to ready walls, to ferry women north, to plant caltrops in river shallows. But only if Freys stood true. She studied Walder's face, saw cunning flicker behind grin. What price would he ask? More silver, more matches, maybe Riverrun itself? A final toast. Walder rose again, voice ringing. "Tomorrow we sign the twin addendum. ink to honor the king's hand. Applause thundered. He bowed to Robb, extended claw-like hand. Robb clasped it, forging spectacle. Faces shone with hope. Yet Catelyn saw Bolton watching still, silent as frost, and she remembered his words. Nature rebels against shackles. When the music ended and guests filed to chambers, she lingered near Robb's seat. Walder approached on creaking stick. "Lady Stark," he said softly. "A word." She followed him to alcove. His breath smelled of onions and ambition. "Lannister claws near," he whispered. "I have ears. Your king must march at dawn. The bridge cannot host two armies." "Then hold for him." Walder's eyes glittered. "For price." "Name it." Moat Catelyn passes to Frey control once taken. My bridge spans rivers. I crave one bridging realms. Catelyn's breath hitched. Moat Catelyn, the choke point to the north. Give Walder that he controlled trade from White Harbor to Sunspear. But deny him and risk betrayal. Robb arrived then, cloak drifting. Walder bowed. "Your grace, I speak of future fruit. Grant my house stewardship of Moat Catelyn after war, and the crossing stands unshaken." Robb hesitated, flicked glance to Catelyn. She read his struggle. Sacrifice pride by survival. She inclined her head. Robb said, "If Moat Catelyn falls by Northern Blade and you keep faith, then I, House Frey, shall hold it in fief under the king in the north." "Swear the oath, Lord Walder." Walder's grin split. "Before gods or men?" "Both," Robb said. They clasped wrists. Wine was poured. Oath sworn. Pact sealed anew. The castle exploded with motion. Horns blared before dawn. Robb's banners assembled. Refugees herded across East Bridge onto South Bank to march behind host. Frey masons strengthened gatehouses. Catelyn rode yard to yard, overseeing load of supply wagons while Grey Wind prowled sentinel. Walder met her atop Bridgewalk. Snowflakes drifted between them. "I keep oath," he said. "But I keep coin, too. Tithes henceforward double until Moat Catelyn deed delivered." She swallowed bitterness. "We will discuss." "No," he hissed. "We will count." He shuffled off. She watched him vanish, heart heavy. Yet the army formed below, northern horns braying. Robb mounted, saluted he. "Ar." She raised a gloved fist. The gates opened. The king rode. The last she saw was Grey Wind leaping ahead, tail streaming pure as hope. Snow swallowed them. Silence fell upon the twins but for creak of ice on stone. Catelyn turned to the wall, mind set on defense. 10 days. Blood or honor would write the next verse. She wrapped her cloak tight, strode toward War Council chambers, and behind her the bridge stood firm. Timbers groaning but unbroken for now. Sequel. Moonless dark poured over the trident like pitch, muffling the hiss of half-frozen river against the pilings. Inside the East Tower Council chamber a single rush lamp guttered, its glow licking parchment where Catelyn Stark bent to ink. Draft ledgers, duty rosters, fitful sketches of rampart angles, numbers and angles that might hold back 10 times their weight in mailed fury if set to purpose. Yet her pen faltered each time she imagined Tywin's crimson tide cresting the horizon. The scrape of steel boots in corridor drew her from Sums. Ser Desmond Grell entered, helm beneath arm, cheeks salt-streaked from cold. "Patrol reports torches on the Derry Road," he said. "Could be outriders counting walls. Or deserters chasing warmth," she answered, though hope rang hollow. "Double the watches. Archers to the murder holes above the bridgewalk. Rotate them every 2 hours so fingers keep feeling." Desmond nodded. "The Frey lads grumble at the extra shifts. Let them grumble until the river thaws." She sealed the duty slate, rose to pace. "Grain stores. Holding. 2 months if rations strict." Rations strict then. She paused by the arrow loop and peered into blackness where only river's breath moved. "Send word to the ferry slips. Every barge hauled upstream 1 mile, scuttled if capture nears. I want no crossing but this bridge." Desmond hesitated. "Lord Walder claims half those hulls. Let him claim them after the war. Dead men need no ferries." The old knight saluted brusquely and withdrew. Left alone, Catelyn allowed weariness to fold her shoulders. Edmure's ravens promised relief from Seaguard, yet winter blocked roads with drifts waist-high. She could not bank on Jason Mallister's spears before spring. The twins must hold through cunning rather than numbers. She closed her eyes, breathing the sour smell of ink. Ned's ghost seemed to stand behind her, calm voice reminding that castles fall only when their guardians lose belief first. Hold belief, hold stone. Dawn seeped gray through clouds and lit a world muffled by fresh snow. She donned fur-lined boots and descended to the yards where Walder's grandchildren drilled beneath banners stiff with ice. Ryman Frey shouted commands, though his eyes swam with last night's drink. Catelyn watched quietly until the spear line tangled. She strode forward, seized a wobbling haft, and stepped into stance beside a startled Frey boy. "Feet apart," she told him, sweeping the ashwood shaft in a shallow arc. "Thrust from hips, not shoulders." Ryman opened his mouth to protest, thought better, and barked the order she had given. Soon the rhythm steadied, spears kissing target mats with wet thuds. Some lads even managed to smile. When the bell rang to dismiss, Ryman staggered over. "My lady," he began, voice slurred. "These pups need rest afore battle, not mothering." "They need discipline," she corrected. "Your father will value living heirs more than drunk ones." She looked pointedly at the wine blossom blooming across his cheeks. "Clear head, sir." She walked away before he could respond. Mid-morning brought Roose Bolton back through the gate in a swirl of hoarfrost, 20-odd riders at his back bearing deer carcasses slung across saddles. Word spread that his foray south had ambushed a Lannister scout band, netting 2 prisoners and fresh meat besides. In the courtyard, Bolton made a gift of venison haunches to Walder's cooks, bowing with languid courtesy. Catelyn joined them as hostlers carried the bound Lannisters, young squires in foxfur cloaks, faces raw-whipped by cold. "We found these pups tracing tributaries," Bolton informed her, tone mild. "Thought to mark ford depths for some host behind." She studied the prisoners. "Will they speak?" Bolton spread pale hands. "Men speak when tongues loosen." She caught his meaning, felt the chill beneath his silk. "Alive they barter information, dead they confirm nothing. The Pact forbids torture of sworn guest, yet they are no guests." Walder hobbled forward, leech jar clutched by a page. "Prisoners are coin spends," he rasped. "Ryman sells for these too. See, they are fed immodestly." Bolton's lips curved. "I will attend the interrogations, if it please Lord Walder." "Please yourself, my lord. Just bring truth." Walder waved cane dismissively. Catelyn stepped in Bolton's path. "I will witness as well. The king expects humane conduct." Bolton inclined his head. "As you wish, Lady Stark. Humane always." Yet his eyes glinted like ice-glass steel. The dungeon beneath the western tower stank of damp straw and rust, torch smoke curling up vents toward the bridge. The Lannister squires were chained to the wall ring bolts, hands free but ankles hobbled. Bolton produced small knives of surgical neatness, laid them on a linen square. Catelyn kept her gaze on the boy's eyes, fear-wide but defiant. "Names," Bolton said, voice soft as soot. "Company. Strength." The taller squire spat. "Ser Forley rides to burn your rat nest by week's end." Bolton dabbed the spit from his cloak with lace. "Pity." He turned to a guard. "Fetch boiled wine, 2 cups." Catelyn frowned but remained silent. The wine arrived steaming. Bolton tasted, nodded, offered the first cup to the shorter squire. "Warm yourself." The boy hesitated, took it, drank greedily. Bolton offered the second to his companion. The taller spat again. Bolton set cup aside. Minutes passed, only drip of water, crackle of torch. The shorter's lids drooped, cup clattered. "Drugged." Bolton caught him, eased him down. "Milk of the poppy," he said conversationally to Catelyn. "Eases fear." He knelt, pressed ear to the boy's chest, then produced a fine needle and sank it between 2 ribs. The prisoner shuddered, eyes wide, but limbs limp. Bolton turned his face up toward the older squire. Listened to his breathing. I have pricked the sack round his heart. A tremor deeper might pierce. He withdrew needle slowly. A thin line of blood welled. Tell me strength of your host. I will staunch. Horror paled the remaining squire. 700 at vanguard, he whispered. Forley Prester leads. More archers 2 days behind. Lord Giles Rivers commands 500 pikemen to flank. They march with trebuchet parts. Bolton's eyes flicked to Catelyn, confirmation of siege intent. He produced a compress, pressed it to the boy's wound. Thank you. He bound it deftly, then retreated. Now sleep. Milk of the poppy would claim them both soon. He cleaned needle in wine, drying it with cloth. Humane as pledged, he murmured. Outside the cell, Catelyn breathed chill air. You risked the boy's life. Risk clarifies truth. Bolton slid needle into a case. We have days, not weeks. Fear quickens tongues faster than kindness. She could not refute. See, they receive care. The Pact shields prisoners of war from needless harm. I obey the Pact. He bowed, turned down corridor. By afternoon, Catelyn convened council in the stone pillar hall above the armory. Walder, Bolton, Ryman, Sir Desmond, and Maester Eamon gathered round a painted tabletop map of the Trident. She relayed the prisoner's confession. Bolton supplied sketches from scouts. Prester's banners 3 days south at best speed. Roads clearing as winds shifted warmer. Siege ladders and trebuchet pieces, Ryman muttered, rubbing bleary eyes. They mean to breach towers, not choke roads. Walder clacked cane. Trebuchets will be moot if river ice is solid. They'll trot across like goats, storm both banks at once. Catelyn traced finger along south bank. We must deny them approach to the river cliffs. Rob rides to meet them. If we hold 4 days, his host will strike their rear. Bolton tapped Derry on map. Prester might feint toward Harrenhal Crossing, slip east to Stonehenge, forcing Rob to chase. Lord Tywin prizes maneuver over blood. Then we fortify riverfront regardless, Catelyn said. Pit the banks with stakes. Keep boiling sand for ladders. She looked to Walder. Your masons know the best vantage. Walder scowled. Costs timber, oil, coin, and spares life, keep moat Catelyn. She held his gaze until he huffed assent. Orders rippled outward. Lumber carts unloaded pine logs to carve stakes. Potters fired amphory for pitch. Blacksmiths hammered rivets for new portcullis grill. Catelyn worked alongside laborers, hands blistering, cloak blackened. At dusk, she collapsed on bench outside forge, sharing oat bread with Miria. The girl spoke in hushed tone. Whispers say Lannisters offer Lord Walder a golden bridge, treasury rights from King's Landing if he opens gates. Catelyn swallowed bread. Rumor flowed like seep water, but seldom without spring. She studied the girl. Your ears sharp. Who whispers? Kitchen wife Thaya heard from Rhaegar Rivers, who carts wine to the upper tower. Miria's eyes flicked fearfully. Rhaegar said a sealed chest arrived with the lion letter. Catelyn pocketed scraps, stood. Thank you. Keep vigilance, but speak to no one else. She pressed a copper star into the girl's palm. That night she visited the vault again. Chests intact, but one new iron-bound coffer perched alone, odd among wooden boxes. Its lock bore no Frey sigil. She fetched Maester Eamon, who swore he had not registered such chest. Walder's wardens denied entry records. Suspicion pressed icy fingers round her throat. She reported to Walder in his solar where he dozed among leeches. A chest within the vault with no ledger mark. Whence? He blinked bleary eyes. Gift from Trading Guild of Fairmarket. Pledges to Pact. He waved her off. Sleep, girl. But she lay wakeful, replaying the scene. Walder's pupils too quick, his stick tapping in heartbeat rhythm. She recalled Tywin's rumored generosity toward turncloaks, coin enough to drown conscience. Craven spider, she thought, counting flies. 2 dawns later, scouts sighted the Lannister vanguard. Red banners rippling amid columns of pikes, cavalry flanking like fireflies. Prester arrayed camp 2 miles south beyond a low ridge. Gray winds howl carried across snowy flats as Robb's army closed from west, banners hidden yet thunder of hooves betraying nearness. The twins perched between wolves and lions, a bridge becoming Enville. Catelyn stood on battlement as sunrise stained snow pink. Horns brayed within towers, archers strung bows, engineers cranked ballistae on swivel mounts installed atop parapets. She ordered 2 large catapults dragged onto the covered bridge itself, their braces anchored through planking to the stone piers. Projectiles, casks packed with gravel and broken pots, scattershot to shred infantry on ice. Walder wobbled forth in sable cloak. "You arm my toll bridge for war. Repairs will cost. Charge my son double toll when victory comes," she snapped. "For now you charge the enemy blood." He frowned but let her pass. As sunlight climbed, a white banner edged crimson emerged from lion lines. A herald rode halfway toward river, sounding a silver horn. Bolton, Ryman, and Catelyn descended to a forward terrace where they could be seen. The herald bellowed across frosted expanse. Ser Forley Prester, in the name of King Joffrey Baratheon, demands safe passage for his host to cross the Green Fork at the Twins. In return, Lord Walder Frey shall be confirmed Lord Paramount of the Trident, Keeper of Moat Cailin, and Warden of the Crossing. Refusal invites iron and flame. Cheers rose from Lannister ranks. Frey crossbowmen shifted uneasily. Some exchanged glances. Walder's lips pulled thin. Catelyn whispered, "Refuse." Bolton spoke aloud, voice carrying. "The crossing stands closed to Traitor's gold. Depart or choke on grave earth." The herald raised scroll. 3 hours for answer, else assault. He wheeled, galloped back. Wind kicked banners. Tension crackled. Walder stalked into shade of doorway. Catelyn followed, Ryman stumbling after. Inside the antechamber, Walder rounded on her. "Paramount of Trident," he hissed. "Titles older than Heron's curse. Lands to north and south, all for letting them walk. And doom forever branded for breaking guest right," she countered. "The pact would shatter. Every river lord you profit from would become foe. Robb will crush Prester from behind while we hold." Walder's cane trembled in his hand. Ryman placed a steadying palm on his shoulder. "Father, think," he urged. "If we open gates, we face wolf swords sooner or later." Walder snarled. "Wolves turn south when winter ends, but lions gnaw bones forever if fed no meat." His gaze darted to Bolton. "You counsel what, Leech Lord?" Bolton's smile flickered. "I counsel whichever path bleeds least. 3 hosts may tear each other here, leaving vultures richest. Yet guest right remains, break it and even vultures choke." Walder spat phlegm. 3 hours. He limped off toward his private chapel.
Rimon exholet fog.
"He sways like rush by river." He faced Catelyn. "If he wavers, we must act." She touched the hilt of her dirk. "If he wavers, remind him Moat Cailin already promised before gods. Perjury damnation lasts longer than Lannister coin." Ryman swallowed, nodded. Hourglass sands trickled. Catelyn convened a smaller circle atop the Bridgemanspan platform. Ryman, Desmond, Bolton, Black Pate, and Maester Aemon. "If Walder betrays us, we must seal the bridge from his own men," she declared. "Which portcullis lifts with keys held only by you?" She looked to Desmond. "The center grate over water," he said. "Counterweight cabin locked but key on Walder's ring." "Make a copy," she ordered. "Aemon will distract him during midday prayers." Bolton listened, inscrutable. "And if Walder holds true, then we stand as planned." She bent over rough chalk sketch showing castle, river, ice flows. Archers here and here, pitched casks ready to roll onto banks. Bolton's riders guard south flank to intercept any ford gambit. He bowed. "Command accepted." Snow began again, flurries at first, then heavy curtains by the second hour. Visibility shrank. Banners blurred. The Lannisters stoked campfires but made no assault, waiting Walder's answer. Catelyn's gut nodded. Pre-battle wait more harrowing than clash. A bell tolled. Ryman appeared, expression grim. Father will speak from the bridgewalk. Catelyn pulled cloak tight and followed him to parapet where Walder stood flanked by standard-bearers. Twin tower on gray field rippling. Snow flecked his white beard. From the ridge came herald again, horn raised. Walder lifted his cane, voice surprisingly clear. Tell Ser Prester the crossing remains barred to oathbreakers and kings who wear other men's crowns. The river is sworn to wolf, trout, and pact. Let him taste its salt. The herald shouted retort about traitors' graves, then galloped back. Within minutes drums rolled along lion lines. Lannister infantry advanced behind mantlet shields, archers on flanks. On north horizon Robb's vanguard banners emerged through snow, dire wolf, flayed man, sunburst. Timing tight as drawn bow. Battle joined like two storms colliding upon frozen ground. Lannister archers loosed upward. Arrows rattled off stone, some skittering across bridge roof. Frey crossbows fired back, corals punching gaps in red cloaks. Infantry pushed mantlets to within 50 yards of stakes before bogging in snow-clotted mud. From the bridge, two catapults thumped, sending gravel-packed casks arcing. They burst above charging ranks, shredding men with ceramic shards. Still they came, ladders hoisted onto shoulders. Catelyn moved along parapet, calming jittery bowmen with firm hand on bracers, reminding them to aim not at shields but legs beneath. A shield wall toppled when ice gave under weight, dunking half a dozen in river sluicing beneath flows. Screams vanished as currents swept them under. On ridge Robb's horn sounded. Northern cavalry surged downslope, crashing into Lannister rear. Battle momentum flipped. Attackers became panicked. Prester's reserve swung to face new threat, line bending like sapling in gale. Bolton's riders peeled off, flanking toward Derry Road to cut retreat. Snow hid movement until too late. Lannister wagons ignited when Bolton torched pitch barrels, blocking escape. Catelyn spotted Prester himself, gilded helm smoking with frost, rallying spearmen near oak cluster. Gray wind burst from blizzard, hamstringing horse. Chaos erupted. Robb pressed through with personal guard, swords flashing. Catelyn's throat tightened, watching her son vanish into melee. On bridge towers bells rang, Frey nephews cheering. Walder appeared at battlement, face exultant, cane waving like baton. Coin saved, he cackled. Wolf choose lion, toll my victory. Yet Bolton's men cut wider arc, encircling both armies now. Catelyn frowned. Signal Roose, she told a trumpet boy. Hold north flank. Leave gap for Lannisters to flee west. The lad hesitated, Bolton outranked, but she was the king's mother. He blew call. Whether Bolton heeded was question. His troops slowed, but ring remained tight. Minutes stretched like years. Robb's banner surged, then stalled amid red and ice. Catelyn gripped stone until knuckles ached. At last lion lines broke, scattering toward burning wagons, only to wheel again toward far woods where gaps thinned. Bolton's cavalry parted just enough for survivors to bolt. Roars chased them. Pursuit could leave north weakened, but Robb signaled hold. Discipline triumphed. Trumpets ceased. Snow fell softer. On battlements cheers, relief, weeping. Catelyn sagged against wall. Gray wind trotted across corpse-littered fields, sniffing piles, snarling at twitching foes. Walder approached, breath fogging. Well struck, my lady. My bridge stands, my vow kept. Moat Catelyn to me? She looked at him, battle stench rising. When the north secured, yes, fulfilling the Pact's letter and spirit. He shrugged a gnarled shoulder. Spirit I leave to Septons. Letter weighs heavier. He tottered away, humming off-key. Day waned. Robb rode through East Gate, mail rent but grin fierce. Catelyn embraced him, silent tears marking cheek. He clasped her arms. Your walls bled lion dead. He glanced up at towers. And Frey honor held. Bolton arrived, helm under arm. A narrow vice, your grace, he said flatly. Prester near hammered us between bridge and ridge. Weather favored defense. Next lord may wait for thaw. Next lord will find walls thicker, Robb replied. We hold winter here. They formed council in Central Hall. Fires roaring, steam rising from soaked cloaks. Walder demanded immediate ratification of Moat Catelyn grant. Robb countered with clause. Frey forces must garrison the neck under Stark oversight. Walder bristled but agreed when reminded of Pact. Catelyn requested transport for refugees farther north. White Harbor offered S. Torres. Robb assented. Bolton volunteered escort. Dreadfort roads well patrolled. She eyed him. He smiled blandly. Night deepened. Catelyn stood on balcony overlooking river now choked with broken ice and corpses drifting. Torches flickered, outlining silhouettes dragging bodies ashore. She whispered thanks to old gods and knew yet could not shake unease. Victory felt thin, edges jagged. Footsteps. Ryman joined her, sober for once. "You saved my father from folly," he said, "and Frey house with him." "The river saved us all," she replied. "Flow ever on." He looked down. Still he counts coin. Beware his ledger. Some debts he pays in bloodless ink, others differently. She studied him. "Will you stand against him if he strays?" Ryman's jaw tightened. "I will stand with the Pact." He bowed and left. Over the next fortnight, armies buried dead, burned siege engine debris, and reconstructed stockades. Robb dispatched ravens of victory to Riverrun and White Harbor.
Riverlords cheered. Lannister morale rumored shaken.
But fresh scouts spoke of Ser Gregor Clegane massing at Harrenhal with Tywin's main host. 20,000 hardened. Were far from done. In quiet hours, Catelyn walked the lower halls where refugees nested. She taught children northern lullabies, eased fever with willow tea. One day Miria tugged her sleeve. "Lady, a stranger in storeroom asks for cat of the canals." The phrase pricked memory of Arya's Bravo's tales from bedtime. Hope soared and faltered. "Trap?" She bade Miria lead her to an unused pantry behind the buttery. Inside, lantern low, crouched a wiry girl maybe 11, hair cropped, dressed in cobbler's rags. Gray eyes gleamed wary. "I was told to find Catelyn Tully," the girl whispered. "I bear message from no one." Catelyn dismissed Miria, knelt. "Speak, child." The girl produced small wooden coin carved with the face of a weeping woman. "She said if I showed this you'd believe." Girl with red hair and a burn on left arm. Sansa's burn from candle wax at age 8. Catelyn's breath caught. "Where is she?" "King's Landing. They plan marriage to Ser Harry Harding come spring. She is watched but safe for now." The messenger tugged collar, revealed faint outline of sparrow tattoo. One of Varys's little birds, maybe. "She begs you hold the bridge till crows fly." Tears blurred stone. "Tell her mother's heart beats strong. Tell her hold hope." The girl nodded, slipped away before Thanksgiving. Catelyn stared at coin, resolve hardening. 2 daughters alive, 1 son king. Everything to fight for. She pocketed token, rose. End of frost month brought thaw signs. Ice flows slimmer, air damp with mud scent. With thaw came new peril, river fordable in shallows eastward, where Clegane's host might test banks. Robb drilled engineers to extend palisades. Bolton proposed sortie to break Harrenhal supply lines. Robb approved, though Catelyn warned against thinning garrison. Bolton departed sly smiling. In Walder Solar, she confronted the old lord about secret chest. He laughed. "Old coin, child. My father's rainy day fund. Show me then. Let ledger record it." He refused, cane thumping. Suspicion slits its own throat. She left unsatisfied, fear gnawing anew. That night thunder woke her, a spring squall battering shutters. She rose to check ramparts when explosion rattled stone. A boom from lower bridge vault. She sprinted down corridors lit by red flash, smoke pouring through cracks. At vault door she found hinge blown, iron grate twisted, flames licked spilled casks. 2 guards charred, chests smashed open and empty. The secret coffer shattered, molten gold puddled glowing. Desmond arrived with bucket line dousing fire. Amid steam they found dagger-bearing lion pommel lodged in beam. Walder burst in, shrieking of sabotage. Catelyn's mind raced. Gold melted worthless, but sabotage intent clear. Frame Lannisters or Freys. Maester Aemon noted residue of wildfire along Hinge, rare and dear. Only King's Landing stores such in bulk. Walder accused her of neglect. She demanded full inquiry. Robb arrived, gaze flinty. We hold tribunal at dawn. Catelyn feared spark of distrust could ruin Pact more surely than swords. Tribunal convened in Great Hall. Witnesses paraded. Vault guards claimed they smelled lamp oil, not wildfire. Reeves saw shadow in Frey cloak. Lannister prisoners swore wildfire formula taught by Bolton men. Accusations crossed like blades. Walder ranted, Ryman paled, Robb pounded table for order. Finally Bolton stepped forth, calm. Wildfire is alchemist's art beyond my men, he said. Yet consider motive. Destroy Frey treasure ensures poverty, breeds desperation, invites surrender to lions. Who benefits? The lion. Robb eyed Catelyn. She sensed trap but nodded. Evidence slim but plausible. Walder seized argument. Hang prisoners, he cried. Robb agreed to execution after prayer. That evening Catelyn visited dungeon. The taller squire spat defiance still. Shorter lay fevered from wound. She watched them led to gallows at dawn, hearts heavy. Were they scapegoats? She could not know. Walder seemed gratified yet still counted losses. Liquid gold scraped from floor worthless. Coin from chests partly scorched. He raised tolls and cut rations. Tension returned. Spring rains swelled river. Raids flickered at fringes. Over months Robb launched strikes south, harrying Lannister supply trains, but Tywin avoided pitched battle, content to bleed wolves slowly. The twins endured. Markets reopened. Refugees planted gardens on North Bank. Children laughed again. But Catelyn felt sword edge hovering. Walder's greed, Bolton's ambition, Lyon's inexhaustible coffers. She prayed to stone-faced mother, to each weirwood she had ever touched, that guessed right hold firm until summer. One humid twilight she stood on bridge midspan where new carpenters carved memorial plaque. Here the Riverrun Pact withstood the Red River siege. She traced grooves, wondered if history would remember bloodless sabotage, whispers, dreams of feast halls lit by bone. She vowed memory herself. A footstep. Robb joined, gaze on river glinting copper in sunset. I ride for Seaguard tomorrow, he said. Tully fleet arranges to ferry strike force south along coast. We take Lannisport, force Tywin west. Her heart constricted. And leave the twins? You will guard, he said. Frey spears answer your word, my queen mother. He smiled, but worry creased brow. Can you trust them? She looked to towers glowing rose gold. Trust is ladder whose rungs we carve anew each dawn. She met his eyes. I will hold. He embraced her, whispered. The realm owes you dawn. He departed, cloak snapping in breeze. She remained until stars kindled, remembering Ned's tale of the long night. How the first Stark held the wall while others fought shadows. She whispered to dark water, I am that wall now. And the river answered with sighing promise, carrying her vow towards sea and story. Behind her, in tower windows, candles winked out one by one. Save a single taper in Walder's highest chamber, flickering long into deep night where old men count debts and younger hearts fashion ladders from hope, from steel, from salt-touched bread that still holds ancient magic. And so the bridge endured beneath them. Groaning, weathering, haunted by future songs not yet sung, yet standing, all that mattered between wolf and lion, between feast and slaughter, between pact and the abyss that waits whenever men forget the taste of salt upon promise made. Sequel. Rain returned in slanting veils 3 days after Robb's departure, turning the churned earth outside the twins into a vast gray bog that reeked of corpses and broken harness leather. Catelyn stood beneath the gatehouse eaves while the downpour hammered ramparts and sluiced in brown sheets through the broken sections of the southern palisade. In the bailey behind her the crack of axes rang where carpenters split green pine for replacement stakes. Resin scent mingled with dank rot rolling off the river. The noise grounded her. The rhythm of labor, the proof that life moved forward after bloodshed. But it did nothing to quiet the marrow-deep vigilance that had held her awake since the wildfire blast. She had counted twice. 49 charred planks ripped from the vault door, 3 dead guards cremated in the explosion, 18 half-melted silver ingots ruined beyond coining. The mystery of who had breached the vault remained as thick as the blackened hinges now cooling in the smithy quench bucket. Even Walder Freys' endless tirades over lost treasure had subsided to a low, stinging mutter, as if he feared naming his betrayer aloud might conjure a ghost with a lion's grin. Catelyn shifted the weight of the wool cloak about her shoulders and strode into the deluge. She crossed the inner yard in boot-deep slurry, nodding to bowyers waterproofing new strings beneath an awning of hide. At the buttery entrance, the smell of boiling lentils carried. Inside, fry wives and small folk refugees worked shoulder to shoulder about steaming cauldrons. She paused long enough to praise the day's ration, thickened with turnip rather than watered to broth, before pressing on toward the western tower stair, where Desmond Grell had convened a private muster. 12 men occupied the draft-cold chamber atop the stair, 5 sworn malisters loaned by their aging lord, for sober fry bastards whose loyalty Ryman swore by, and 3 of Robb's outriders left behind as scouts. Map slates and damp parchment cluttered the trestle table. As Catelyn entered, Desmond straightened, gray beard shining with rain. "No further lion banners south of Derry," he reported, tapping chalk on the map. "But this road patrol found wolf prints among cattle tracks here, 2 miles east of the King's garrison. Looks like Bolton's riders crossing the river in secret." "Bolton claims his forays harass Clegane's supply wains," said Catelyn. "Perhaps he steals the field between friend and foe." A Mallister sergeant spat. "Or he steals coin." She ignored the barb. "Keep eyes on the neck road. If Bolton ferries anything but spoils of war, I want to know the weight and smell of it." She turned to the fry bastards. "And you, Garrett, Lothar, the rest? Survey every passage through the underbridge galleries twice each night. Use hounds. Wildfire leaves trace that dogs despise." Garrett, square-jawed and earnest, crossed arms. "We'll scent it, my lady." Orders given, she descended into the tower's heart, the torchlit passages that coiled downward like veins to Walder Frey's private archive. She had been invited, summoned more fairly, to review ledgers in the wake of the blast. It was a task she dreaded. Walder's invented arithmetic twisted through the books like ivy-choking stone, and each coin unaccounted became another blister on his pride, which in turn became another lash of tongue at her. She found him hunched among stacks of parchment behind an ebony writing desk. Damp had curled many pages, and a brazier flared nearby to keep mold at bay. 2 of his youngest wives sat beside him passing quills, eyes blank with tedium. At Catelyn's approach, Walder raised his head like a tortoise from shell, watery gaze aflame. "More costs, widow? It seems every plank you lay, every arrow you notch. Another silver stag leaps screaming from my coffers. Arrows and planks are cheaper than widow's wails," she said, voice level. She laid a register on his desk. "This is the latest tally since the siege. I have trimmed rations for the garrison by 3 ounces of oat per man, per day, and set a limit on lamp oil after moonrise. That should spare you enough to re-roof the western stables come thaw." He snorted, but his frail fingers smoothed the ledger as if it were soft silk. "Money saved to spend again when Lord Tywin's next whelp gnaws our gates." He peered closer, mouth puckering. "You reduce the fry table ration as well?" "Equally," she assured. "If the common men go hungry while lords grow fat, the Pact is a parchment in the rain." Walder grumbled yet signed beneath her entries. "Very well. But when my sons grumble at gruel, I shall direct them to the wolf mother." "Better the wolf mother than the stranger," she answered and turned to depart. His voice halted her at the threshold. "Girl, see that my small folk keep fires burning on every river tower tonight. The rain shrouds more than mudflats. It shrouds boats. I smell oars in the dark." She faced him again. There was no jest in his roomy stare. "It will be done," she promised, and left, heart thudding faster. She climbed back to daylight, albino daylight through cloud, but before she reached the ward, Ryman Fry intercepted her, cloak sodden, eyes reddened though not from drink this time. "Father said that about boats?" "He did." Ryman frowned at sky-battered battlements. He's had those dreams before. Once when I was small he woke raving that Undulls would sail upriver on Mummer's barges. No raid came. Dream or no, we set fires, she said. Fear wastes no wood. Ryman accepted the charge with a nod and lumbered away, barking to lantern lighters before the next bell. The first hint of true trouble arrived near dusk when a sentry whistled from the east parapet and pointed into the haze. Catelyn joined him at the crenel. Through silver rain she glimpsed 3 shapes drifting mid-channel. River barges, awnings drawn, punting poles guided by cloaked boatmen. A bold enough sight, yet not by itself act of war. Traitors plied the rivers even in foul weather, though seldom so openly between armies. She summoned a hornblower and signaled them to declare purpose. One barge hoisted a scrap of white cloth. The awning peeled back to reveal a single figure in tattered maester greys leaning on a standard that bore no sigil she recognized. Merely a plain oaken staff topped by a carved knot. Rain blurred his face. The barges slowed, dipping poles to hold position. Walder Frey himself hobbled onto the battlement, cloak flapping like crow wings, eyes narrowed. A maester with no chain bright enough to gleam, he mused, scrawny as leech droppings. What pawn is this? Catelyn signaled again. The stranger cupped his hands to a bronze speaking trumpet and answered with an echoing shout that carried across water. Parley! A message from Harrenhal under banner of knowledge. I seek the Lady of Riverrun pact-bound to this bridge. Walder scowled, but Catelyn raised her hand to stay the archers who already sighted bows. She called back, Then bind your boats to pilings and advance alone. We will meet beneath the bridgewalk. The stranger nodded. Minutes later he steered to a landing stage near the North Pier. Catelyn, Walder, Maester Ryman, and 2 shield-bearing Freys descended the narrow stair to the underbridge gallery, where iron grates screened the river squall but offered no vantage for hidden archers. She stepped forward first. At close view, the visitor was no maester. His chain comprised only 3 links, iron, bronze, and a curious black stone that might have been dragonglass. Rain plastered gray hair to hollow cheeks. He bowed. Lady Stark, Lord Frey, I am Maester Mertens, late of Harrenhal. I bear a sealed raven tube for your eyes. He produced a blackened cylinder bound in red wax. To Catelyn's surprise, the stamp bore Robb's direwolf. She accepted, suspicion rising, hefting the weight, light, warm from his cloak. How did a maester of Harrenhal come by the king's seal? The raven arrived 2 mornings past. Lord Bolton, acting castellan, ordered me to deliver forthwith. Walder huffed. Bolton again. The man sheds counsels like a snake sheds skin. Catelyn cracked the seal. Inside she found a single scrap of parchment inscribed in her son's bold hand. Mother, asterisk, we strike Lannisport within the fortnight. Expect movement of my bannermen downriver to mask the march. House Frey to grant them passage and quarter. Remember our code for treachery. The sky shall be red at 7, the river red at 8. Do not mistake the dawn. Asterisk. Your son in haste, asterisk. Robb, asterisk. Catelyn read it thrice. Something Jared. Robb seldom used florid phrases like, sky shall be red. Yet the seal looked genuine. Walder leaned, lips twitching. So the pup sails for Lion's Den and expects my bridge to host his spore. She hid unease. We shall host them. Maester Mertens cleared throat. Lord Bolton also sends list of quartermasters who will arrive by road. He produced another parchment. She scanned the names. None recognized. Quartermasters unknown to me? Fresh levies, the maester said. Glover men, Karstark men. Fierce, but orderly. Walder snorted. Orderly as weasels. Very well. Guessed right. Bread and salt, all that rot. Rain hammered planks overhead. Catelyn stroked the black dragonglass link at the man's throat. Uncommon link for healing scholars. He smiled thinly. Old Valyrian scholarship. Harrenhal's libraries run deep. She nodded, though mind raced. If Bolton commanded this messenger, why the dragonglass? And Robb's code phrase, was it the same they devised at Riverrun moons ago? She thought back. Red dawn was their warning, yes, but the second verse had been river black at 8, not red. Subtle change, easily missed. A counterfeit message, then, aimed to lure them to error. Walder barked that Mertens be shown to guest quarters while he prepared feast for newcomers. Catelyn forced calm. I will escort the maester myself. Once within the North Tower stair, she wheeled on him. Who wrote that letter truly? He feigned surprise. Your son's own hand. She drew knife, pressed it to his collar. He never writes river red at 8. Cold calculation replaced his smile. You read too closely. Speak. Lord Bolton sends herald of change, he whispered. Robb Stark has ridden south beyond your reach. The dire wolf will bleed on the golden tooth. When news arrives, be ready to reopen this bridge. Open it to what? Peace, Lady Stark. The king in the north is but a dream. Lord Bolton means to end nightmares. She pressed steel until dragonglass nicked skin. You speak treason. I speak survival. She disarmed him deftly, ripping chain from neck. Guards rushed as she signaled. They seized the maester. Dungeon, she ordered. Ryman's bastards hauled him away, protests swallowed by thunder. In Walder's high chamber, she found the old lord already dictating feast preparations. She shut the door, ignored his sputter. The letter is false. Bolton schemes to hand the north to Lannisters. The messenger confessed. Walder's eyes glittered. Confessed, did he? Under a lady's dirk? You grow teeth. Enough to bite betrayal, she snapped. Bolton's riders may be minutes from the gate, claiming rights to quarter here. Deny them. Fire beacon code. 3 long bursts. Robb will recognize warning. Walder tapped cane, mind racing behind crags of age. If Bolton wins, we hang. If Stark wins, we feed him. If lions win. If lions win, you lose everything. They prize gold, not toll bridges. At length he croaked. Very well. Deny entry until I weigh Bolton's life in a scale. He strode past her, calling for Ryman. The next hours blurred. Beacon horns blared thrice long, echoing across sodden lowlands. Catelyn posted archers along every murder hole overlooking North Road. Drizzled dusk deepened into inkwell night when the first torchlights bobbed beyond trees. 20 riders, flayed man banners slick with rain. They approached gate shouting for guest right. Catelyn, from parapet, answered. House Bolton must wait upon dawn. Storm floods the yards. The riders cursed but withdrew to an orchard hollow. Through spyglass she saw them light no fire, discipline too sharp for scouts. They waited. By midnight, distant on southern horizon, 3 red flares rose then faded, Robb's old sign that enemy banners massed. If Bolton blocked the bridge, the king would be forced to ford miles downstream. She prayed he saw her horns. An hour before dawn, Walder summoned her to secret stairs spiraling under chapel. There, in lamplit crypt, he opened a rusted chest. Within lay parchments bearing seals of every king for 4 centuries, contracts older than the conquest. He thrust one into her hands. My father's father took oath from Cregan Stark that no Frey bannerman would ever lift sword against Winterfell men on the Trident. He spat. Worthless words until dawns like this. He withdrew a small silver hammer. Use it, he rasped. Seal the pact again. Carve wolf and tower in wax. Prove to my reluctant heart that your son bleeds not with southern coin. She melted wax, pressed seal. Dire wolf on one half, twin towers on the other. He nodded, exhaling like deflating wineskin. Now see if Bolton dares test that. Dawn smeared charcoal across clouds. Bolton's riders returned, this time 50 strong, demanding shelter for Lord approaching with wounded. Walder stood atop gatehouse and tossed the newly sealed parchment down. Guest right to House Bolton suspended, he declared, by pact with Winterfell, stamped by oath older than yours. If Roose approaches with ill intent, the river shall drink him. The riders gathered scroll, read, conferred. Their captain replied, voice thin over hastening wind. Lord Bolton approaches not as guest but as Lord Paramount of the Trident, granted by Lord Tywin Lannister by right of conquest. Arrows answered him. 2 shafts thudded into breastplate, knocking him from saddle. The riders wheeled, galloped for tree line under whistling quarrels. Walder hissed like kettle. Bolt men will return. Catelyn clenched rampart. And we will be ready. Through drizzle horns echoed from far north bank. A triple note howl that set her heart to sprint. Robb's signal for urgent crossing denial. He had seen. The day blurred into preparation. Archers strung new bowstrings dried by brazier. Pitch cauldrons simmered atop bridge towers. Miria and other girls filled clay balls with quicklime. By afternoon, scouts returned with tidings. Bolton's column, 800 foot and 200 horse, dug in half-league north, raising earthworks. Siege from Friend's banner. Desmond Grell muttered. He means to starve us into opening while Lannisters close south. Hammer and sickle. He looked at Catelyn. We are the wheat. She responded by doubling river patrols in coracles armed with firepots. If Bolton attempted boats, they would burn upon launch. Rain eased into gray mist, but spirits steadied. Battle's purpose sharpens fear into edge. Night fell. Under its cloak, another crisis. A Mallister guard discovered 2 Frey bastards sneaking across drawbridge with rope bundles. Garrett, one Catelyn trusted. She confronted him in torchlit vault corridor. Why? She demanded. He wept. My father's letters. Roose promised coin and lordship for any who opened the western postern. He knelt. I could not do it. She believed him, but treason attempted is treason. Walder demanded hanging. Ryman begged mercy. Catelyn intervened. Spare them. Place them at front wall where Bolton's first arrows will judge. Let them prove loyalty with blood. Walder, surprisingly, consented. Perhaps he feared thinning his own bloodline. Chill dawn rose over siege lines that now encircled half the bridge. Bolton banners mingled with lion-rent cloth. Proof of alliance consummated. Across river south bank shimmered with campfires of Clegane's vanguard. Yet Robb's host had not appeared. Maybe he marched west still or sheltered from prying eyes. Days crawled. Arrows hissed, skirmishers probed, but the main gates held. Stores dwindled. Walder's temper frayed. He accused Catelyn of leading him into trap. She countered with ration ledgers. He shouted of broken dental work from hardtack. She recommended stew. 7th night brought worst omen. Maester Eamon stumbled into her chamber pale and gasping. Garrett and Lothar, the bastards, found throats slit on wall walk. A scrap pinned to breast read simply River Red, mocking her code. Fury scorched her calm. She ordered every sentry to double, every torch kept high. Bolton's shadow crawled within walls. It was Miria who whispered the breakthrough. She found Catelyn in rookery. The Grey Maester, she said, meaning Mertens, sings war songs in cell. Says he serves the twin god, fire and blood. Twin god, Valyria's motto. Catelyn followed the girl to dungeon. Mertens hung by wrists, yet lips curved. He croaked in high Valyrian couplet that chilled her. Every bridge must burn for dragons to fly. She realized then. The dragonglass link, the wildfire hinge. Bolton no mastermind, merely opportunist. Someone else sought to fracture Pact, ignite realm. But who, when dragons dead? She demanded names. He spat blood, laughed. New dragons hatch under the lion's roar. He died before dawn, some poison blooming under tongue. That same dawn horns blared from North Ridge. She climbed parapet and beheld hope. Banners of flayed man, but fields reversed, pink man reversed, a red heart of the Dreadfort replacing original. Over them rippled direwolf, trout, sunburst. A rider galloped forth trailing flag of truce. Bolton's siege lines stirred. Confusion rippled. His own sigil used against him. The rider approached gate. Catelyn descended. Rain had ceased. Sky crimson with sunrise, the red at 7 indeed. The rider removed helm. Ser Wylis Manderly. Robb's vanguard under Lord Wyman and Edmure has taken Bolton's baggage train, he announced. They march east with proof of Bolton's compact with Tywin, letters, coin, king's hand seal. Lord Bolton broken from within. His second in command, Ser Roderick Riswell, rides with us. Open and we shall crush remaining siege. Catelyn signaled drums. Gates swung. Manderly host flooded yard. Cheers thundered. Bolton's men outside broke, some fleeing north, others surrendering when they saw their own banner reversed. By noon the siege dissolved. Ser Brynden Blackfish himself arrived with Edmure, their levies mud-splattered but triumphant. Walder Frey presided over surrender table in Great Hall, cane shaking with mixed rage and glee. Bolton, gaunt, mud-caked, was marched and flanked by Pike. He bowed, unruffled. Your bridge stands, Lord Walder. Stark honor preserved. Catelyn interceded before Walder's tirade. You plotted murder of my son of thousands. You broke sworn faith. Bolton's pale eyes glittered. I forged new faith. One the realm will thank when lions rule, dire wolves perish, and small folk see peace at last. Edmure slammed fist. Save speeches for the headsman. But Walder raised hand. Headsman wastes currency, he rasped. Bolton's secret's worth more coin than Tywin's purse. He turned to Robb's envoys. Let the king in the north judge Traitor. Until then, I keep him. Hostage for both sides. Catelyn flinched. Another hostage ledger. He is our prisoner of war. My walls, my vaults, my prisoner, Walder ruled. By Pact Clause 21, captured foe within these stones falls under Frey custody. She started to protest, but Edmure touched her arm. He is right in law. Let us secure Bolton for now. Robb can press claim once safe. Walder ordered Bolton chained in topmost cell of Eastern Tower, same once offered for Catelyn's lodging. Appropriate symmetry, though chill raised her neck. Bolton plotting inside while Walder counting outside. Victory feast followed, but Catelyn ate sparingly. Mind on dragons reborn in lions' dreams. Bolton's words echoed. Every bridge must burn. A metaphor or prophecy? Whatever wildfire faction plotted, it reached beyond Bolton, beyond twins. But for moment bridge held. 2 mornings later ravens brought word. Robb's attack on Lannisport succeeded. Fleet burned, gold shipments seized. Cheers rolled through towers. Walder's greed soothed by rumors of lion ransom potential. Catelyn allowed herself a rare smile, walked to midspan balcony where thawed river flashed bright beneath. She leaned on cool stone and thought of Arya somewhere between shadows, of Sansa caged yet breathing, of Bran and Rickon's fates still uncertain. She lifted silent prayer. Let bridges stand. Let dawns keep red sky only as memory, not omen. In wind's hush she fancied she heard Ned's voice again. Hold fast the river and the river will hold you. Behind her in the hall's carpenters set new beams. Smiths forged fresh hinges. Scribes copied revised Pact articles stamped now with reversed flayed man crossed out by dire wolf Fong. Guests and hosts both listened for crack of breaking law, yet none came that day. The trident ran east toward sea, flood rising with spring melt, sweeping away wreckage of siege. Beneath the twins, the water no longer smelled of smoke. Instead it carried green hints of season unborn. Catelyn closed her eyes and breathed that scent like promise. Tomorrow, no doubt, Walder would find another war of coins to wage. Bolton would sharpen a new scheme in chains. Tywin would launch fresh claws. But tonight the bridge stood whole, and the Pact, mended with blood, wax, and quiet heroism, held worlds apart. She opened her eyes to the glimmer of late light on water, a ribbon of ruddy gold winding into horizon. The sky, though streaked crimson, was no longer a warning but a tapestry of hard-won hope. She touched the wolf clasp at her breast, whispered a vow that she would see this fragile corridor between kingdoms survive whatever dragon's men might birth in their ambition. And the river whispered back, carrying her promise under arches of ancient stone toward dawn. PGSQL. Catelyn woke to the hush that settles only after heavy rain. No drip from eaves, no slap of standing water, just a weighty silence that felt like the moment between heartbeats. Gray dawn pooled through casement slits, painting her chamber pale as bone. She slipped from the wolf fur cloak she used as blanket and pulled on a riding skirt still streaked with mud. There was much to do before Walder could discover some new advantage buried in yesterday's victory. Down in the underbridge kitchens, she found Miria ladling thick barley porridge into wooden bowls for a line of sleepy lads from Sir Desmond's watch. They bobbed heads to her and gulped their breakfast without complaint. She crouched beside the girl and murmured news of the night. No alarms, no fresh arrows fired from Bolton's camp, and no oar splashes on the trident. Miria gestured toward the back hearth where a little clay pot perched on the coals, the maester's secret remedy for lung fever steeping in honeyed wine. Catelyn smiled her thanks, smoothed the girl's hair, and left by a postern door. Frost glazed the yard in glittering sheets. Work parties chipped ice from the well crank and blew on their cupped hands. Above them, the twin towers stood streaked but unbroken. The black clots of new pitch where wildfire had scorched stone glistened like mirror glass. She crossed the courtyard to the Chapel of the Seven, wanting light and quiet before the coming council, but paused when she saw Maester Eamon waiting on the chapel steps with Lord Edmure. "Sister," Edmure greeted, beard beaded with meltwater. "Raven from Seaguard. Jason Mallister's outriders say Tywin has marched from Harrenhal. Not west, northwest, toward the God's Eye. They guess 40 leagues off. Harrenhal's stores must be low," she said, though it felt like reaching for comfort. "He cannot besiege the twins before robbing villages along the Green Fork, unless he means to bleed Rob's rear guard and fish stragglers," Edmure muttered. "I have sent word to Riverrun for every levy still able to march, but ferries are scarce." Eamon cleared his throat. "Lord Walder will demand coin or titles for each barge." "He will not," Catelyn said, and led them inside the chapel where thin candles flickered before 7 worn marble faces. She knelt on cracked tiles and prayed in silence. For Robb on the western marches, for Sansa still caged in King's Landing, for Arya wherever her fleet feet had carried her, for Bran and Rickon, if the stories of their death were lies. Please let them be lies. When she rose, resolve felt sturdier than stone. They joined Walder's dawn council in a cramped solar that smelled of wet dogs and ink. Ryman sat sober today, gray stubble roughening jaw. Maester Eamon unrolled fresh parchment. Sir Desmond Grell perched by the arrow slit scanning the river with soldier's instinct. But all eyes slid to the tall ironwood chair near the hearth, vacant save for a length of studded chain coiled on the cushion like a sleeping adder. "Where is Roose?" Walder rasped. "In irons where traitors belong," Catelyn answered. "He will remain until my son passes judgment." "Traitors bargain better when they still breathe," Walder said. "What price might Tywin offer for Bolton's head on a spike? Or for the man himself delivered wrapped in chains?" "Tywin pays in promises and graves," said Edmure. "We will not sell our honor. Honor kept us hungry in the last siege," Walder shot back. Catelyn placed the sealed Starkfry pact on the table. "This is the coin that spends. Break it and none will trade with you again. Keep it and the North, the Riverlands, and every good house weary of dragon tales will stand at your back." Walder snorted. "Dragon tales?" A man in chains claimed dragons hatch beneath the lion's roar. "Should that warm my purse or chill my bones?" Desmond snorted. "Wildfire and ravings. The last dragons died a century past." Catelyn remembered green flame licking iron hinges. She remembered the dragonglass link at Mertens's throat. "Fear the men who long for dragons more than dragons themselves," she said. "They will burn continents to hatch an egg." Walder's bright eyes darted between them, greed wrestling caution. "Very well, no sale to lion or wolf. For now." They turned to practicalities. Road patrols, grain quotas, physician rounds for the wounded refugees. Before noon, the young Frey bastards who had survived the wall duty limped in, gashes crusted, eyes bright with fierce pride. Catelyn commended them publicly, and Walder nodded grudgingly. Small stones building a bridge, she thought. Around midday horns echoed along the south bank. From the highest window Catelyn spied 3 riders under a patchwork banner of yellow sunbursts on green and black. Manderly levies escorting a tall figure in a sodden traveler's cloak. The rider dismounted at the south gate and, despite mud, strode with a limp that jarred Catelyn's memory. When the hood fell away, she gasped. There, rail-thin, hair-cropped and gray, stood Brynden Blackfish no more, but Hoster Tully, her father. She hurried down the stair, skirts soaking in half-frozen puddles. But before she reached the courtyard, the tall figure threw back the cloak and proved not Hoster at all. It was Lord Brynden after all, face weathered yet eyes burning with mischief. Behind him came a lean girl in rough spun, her cloak clasped with a little iron coin carved into a weeping woman's face. For a moment Catelyn could not draw breath. Then the girl looked up and gray eyes flashed like a mirror to her own childhood. "Mother," she whispered, and collapsed into Catelyn's arms. Arya smelled of horse sweat and river weed and smoke. Catelyn clutched her so tightly ribs ached, and still she feared letting go would wake her from dream. Brynden's gravelly voice sliced the moment. "Found her with a ragged band sailing skiffs through the neck. Jaqen Hagar's men, by the looks. They planned to reach White Harbor, but a Frey patrol would have slit throats if we hadn't intercepted." Walder arrived on his cane, breath wheezy. "Another Stark under my roof. My cup runneth over." Ryman bowed to the girl. "Lady Arya, welcome." Arya's gaze cut left and right, reading dangers. "I'm no lady, I'm a wolf," she muttered. But then she buried her face in Catelyn's shoulder again, and the woman who had outstared kings wept into her daughter's matted hair. That eve the twins held a new feast, hastily assembled but sincere. Even Walder smiled when Arya devoured a leg of mutton in 2 hands like a squire after tilt. Bards sang of the river's deliverance. Frey daughters garlanded gray wind with hemp flowers until the direwolf sneezed them off. Yet spies dozed lightly. Near midnight, as torches guttered and garrison laughter faded, Catelyn stood outside the door to Bolton's cell, listening. Not a breath. She unlocked the small shutter and peered inside. Chains lay severed on the floor. The narrow window slit yawned empty, bars sawed through. A rope of braided bedsheets swung gently in night breeze. Bolton gone. Footfalls thundered up the stair as Desmond raced into corridor. Gate guards dead. Bolton's sigil burned on North Tower door. Just the flayed man, no heart. He slipped the noose. Catelyn's stomach folded. Sound horns. Close every portcullis. Cry and clatter rattled through the keep. But Bolton was a night shadow. By dawn scouts found hoofprints leading upriver, fresh but fading. Walder raged that his hostage was stolen, demanded search parties. Catelyn clenched fists. One traitor free, another storm promised. She feared Robb would meet Bolton's knife before receiving word. So she and Brynden planned. She would ride south with a chosen spearknot, Arya disguised among spearwives, to warn Robb and present her daughter to rally northern hearts. Brynden would keep the twins steady with Edmure, Quentyn Blackwood, and the Frey garrison nearest to loyalty. Walder agreed after loud protest. It meant Stark owed Frey safer tolls on any road south. He could harvest that promise later. Before sunrise, Catelyn knelt in the keep's tiny godswood, where a single weirwood sapling grew in a barrel of river soil. Arya stood with her, hand in hers. They pressed fingers to the sapling's pale bark and whispered prayers. One for the wolf pack lost, one for the pack reborn. The tree's red sap bled where nails scratched, and Catelyn swore it looked like the first men's runes spelling home. They rode that morning. Catelyn, Arya, Desmond, the Frey bastard Lothar returned to favor 2 Manderly guards, and Brynden himself for the first dozen leagues. Across the bridge Walder raised portcullis with pomp. Horns blew farewell. Catelyn spared a final glance at the towers, remembering Ned's words on her wedding night. Riverrun will always open when you call. She hoped the twins would too, henceforth. Snow flurried as they trotted south along frozen ruts. Rivers swollen by storm roared under shattered ice pans. Desmond scouted ahead, bow strung, while Arya rode at Catelyn's side on a shaggy gelding Walder had pressed on her with grudging pride. Frey bred, sure-footed as coin, the girl handled reins like a sellsword twice her size. Her gray eyes scanned treelines for ambush. At midday they found a ruined hamlet charred to ash, small folk slain in muddy ditches. Lion banners burned black lay amid the corpses. Wolves hacked off the poles. Catelyn fixed her gaze on sky to keep tears from freezing on lashes. Arya dismounted, hauled one corpse to a pyre and set it alight without flinch. Smoke drifted west on chill wind. They rode harder. At dusk, campfire smoke rose ahead. Desmond signaled caution, but Arya dismounted and slipped into brush with feet silent as a cat. She returned soon, cheeks smudged. For men, 3 women, no banners, Lannister blades, northern cloaks. Looters, maybe. Bolton sells words? Catelyn wondered. Too ragged, Arya said. But one whispered dragons like a prayer. That word again. Catelyn weighed risks. We ride past. Engage only if they threaten travelers. Yet fate rarely obeys plans. As they skirted the clearing, a screaming child burst from brush. Ragged, maybe 6, clutching a blood-smeared doll. Arya swung down, intercepting, calling soft words. Behind came a man with one ear hacked off, sword raised. Desmond's arrow caught him through throat. He toppled. The looters swarmed, laughing, hungry, wild. Catelyn found herself blade to blade with a woman swinging cleaver. Steel rang like frozen bells. Desmond dropped 2 more. Lothar gutted a 3rd. Arya fought beside Catelyn, needle's thin point darting. The cleaver woman lunged. Catelyn parried, riposted, drove steel into belly. When it was done, 3 survivors fled yelping into woods, leaving firelight flickering on corpses. The child sobbed at Arya's knee. Catelyn crouched, noticing burn marks branding the girl's arms, spirals, like dragon egg patterns. The looters had been marking her for some cult. She swaddled the child in her own cloak. We take her, Catelyn said. We ride light, Desmond warned. Lighter than conscience? Arya snapped. None argued. They camped by a brook. The child, Sarah, half-starved, slept curled beneath Arya's cloak. Catelyn whispered with Desmond by the fire. Cult talk of dragons spreads faster than crows, he said. Bolton might be part of it, prophecies and wildfire caches. If Tywin leans on that myth, he could ignite half the realm. And if Bolton sells it north, Catelyn added, Robb could face rebellion within. She dozed uneasy, dreaming of bridges burning beneath golden dragons soaring over red water. She woke to soft footfalls, Arya stalking perimeter blade in hand like a guardian spirit. Pride swelled with sorrow, childhood stolen. On the 4th day, riders in stark livery galloped into view, pickets of Robb's rearguard falling back from plundered villages. Their captain, Hallis Malin, gaped at Arya, then knelt. Sweet mercy, we thought you dead. Tears froze on his beard. He guided them to Robb's camp in the shadow of tall, standing stones west of the Blue Fork. Robb strode out, crownless head high, Queen Jane beside him. He gathered Arya into embrace so fierce she squeaked. When he turned to Catelyn, his composure cracked. 2 blessings in one breath. Father's gods are kinder than I deserve. She told him of Bolton's escape, of the dragon cult, of Tywin's march. Robb listened grimly. If Bolton rides for Tywin, the lion will use him to split my lords. We must reach Riverrun. Rally hearts before the whisper spreads. Walder will grant passage only if convinced Moat Cailin is still his reward, she said. Robb sighed. Every promise a chain. He summoned scrolls, drafted orders for Lord Wyman to guard the neck while Manderley fleet sailed supplies upriver. We strike Tywin only after securing our rear. Council lasted hours under flapping canvas. Manderley envoys confirmed rumors. Sellsword bands wearing red-painted dragons terrorized Duskendale and Maidenpool, claiming rebirth of Valyria. Jane reported small folk prayers blending 7 with old Valyrian gods. Fire and blood, mercy through flame. Religion's root in soil tilled by war, Catelyn murmured. We must end war before seeds bear fruit. Robb issued march order. Return northeast, relieve Riverrun, then swing south along King's Road to pinch Tywin between waters. He dispatched fast riders to Edmure, to Mal Lister, and, reluctantly, to Walder Frey, reminding him of charter clause granting temporary garrison at the Twins. He'll raise tolls, Robb said, but time is dearer. Dawn marched them forward, 6,000 men in column, wagons rattling. Sarah perched on Arya's saddle, eyes big as moons. With each mile road improved, yet signs of fear multiplied. scorched graffito of dragons on trees, abandoned villages with charred seven-pointed stars over doors. On the third evening, they reached the ruined tower of Sharer. Beneath its collapsed roof glowed a sickly green-gold shimmer, wildfire residue. Scouts found empty casks stamped with lion's head, but deeper in Cellar Desmond discovered a single intact egg-shaped stone, hairline veins pulsing faint heat. Dragon glass. Robb ordered the ruin sealed and penned a warning to Stannis. The king's alchemists had lost wildfire caches beyond counting, now in hands unknown. Catelyn urged him to send copy to the Citadel. Knowledge must war against myth. On seventh day, thunder rolled low. They emerged onto high bluffs where the Red Fork meets the Trident, and there lay Riverrun. Salmon banners flying, siege towers in charred heaps. Edmure had held, but beyond the river rose dust plumes. Tywin approaching. They forded at dawn, crossing under gray-gold sky. Ryman Frey met them on the far bank with 200 horse. "My father awaits, feast prepared, toll waved," he announced, sober pride in voice. "We ride with you, King Robb, to hunt lions." Robb clasped his arm. "Then lion shall learn the bridge he scorned becomes the sword at his throat." Catelyn gazed east where sunrise painted the water red set afire. She remembered Robb's code. River black at 8, but it shimmered red now, reflecting clouds scudding like embers across sky. Omen or accident, she no longer feared it. The river had bled once and survived. So would they. That night inside Riverrun's hall, Brynden presented more spoils. Captured letters showing Bolton promised Harrenhal to Ser Amory Lorch in return for wildfire stores. But Tywin had used Bolton's treachery to coax Crownland's lordlings with dragon dreams. Proof of that treason would shatter Lannister alliances among lords devout to the Seven. Robb dispatched riders south with duplicates, each scroll sealed with Direwolf and Seven-Point Star. Fires burned low, men drifted to pallets. Arya sat by Catelyn plaiting Sarah's hair. The little girl smiled for first time. Catelyn stroked both heads, feeling warmth spread through chest. Beyond ramparts, storm clouds massed again, but they were only weather now, no prophecy, no doom, just another challenge for roads and campfires. The wolves had learned bridges could hold when built with honor and courage, not coin and fear. And honor, once outlawed from feast halls, had been reforged thicker than steel. As she drifted toward sleep, Catelyn pictured the Riverrun Pact carried south, east, west, inscribed on pillars of inns, etched into village stones, recited by children who would know guest right not as fragile courtesy but as the first bastion of peace. The dragons of men's longing might rise and smoke again, but a bridge of faithful hearts would always span the divide, guarded by wolves, trout, and the countless quiet souls who refused to see law broken at the board. Her last waking thought was that Ned would have smiled at such a bridge, then set his great hands upon it to test its strength. And finding it sound, he would have nodded once, the solemn nod she loved, and said, "We hold the river together." She answered that memory with a whisper carried on hearth smoke and dream. "We do, my love, we do."